Has never been more affordable at Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills and Cool Springs on approved credit.
If you missed the latest edition of Talking with TD.
Former Maryland, now Titans tight end, Chig Okonkwo, from college to the NFL, there's even more learning that you could acquire, would you say?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's so much more learning, and I've figured that out in the short time that I've been here. That even now, like, I remember coming from high school, going to college, I remember saying, oh, I really don't know anything about football. And now I'm saying the same thing, like, oh, I really don't know anything about football, really, because the NFL is just a completely different game. You know, it's all these different rules, these new rules, you know, different body types, a lot stronger guys, there's different techniques you got to use now, and just different schemes and all these different things. So there's definitely a huge learning curve that, you know, I'm excited for. I'm excited for the challenge to learn it all.
Search Talking with TD today on your favorite podcast platform. The newest edition drops every Wednesday at theGameNashville.com and the Game Nashville app.
Blood Assurance, this community's local blood centers, is hiring for several open positions in the Nashville area. Be a part of a company that helps save lives by providing the local hospitals with the much-needed life source of blood. They offer competitive pay, great benefits, paid time off, and retirement benefits. Blood Assurance has a family-friendly environment. Go to bloodassurance.org/careers. Again, that's bloodassurance.org/careers to apply.
From the Hillside Medical Game Studios, WPRT-FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne.
NASCAR is back. Kyle Larson returns to Nashville Superspeedway a winner.
Nashville's exclusive home for NASCAR.
ESPN
102.5 and 106.3.
Terang, it's a high fly ball.
The leading receiver.
Awesome game 7.
Checker flag in the air.
The Game.
A Cromwell media station.
Where you have a voice.
We're one play away from an injury.
He knows this. He's a study of the game.
And we have strong opinions.
He's been awful. I don't think they were trying, and that's why I feel the way I feel.
This is Stillman and Company with Jared Stillman and Caroline Fenton. Presented by TriStar Moving on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app.
Stone & Company is delivered by TriStar Moving, ESPN 102.5. The game streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. Thanks to the law offices of Amanda Gentry. Live from the Hillside Medical Game Studios. It feels so good to be back today. How is everybody? Hope everybody had a great Memorial Day weekend. And, of course, our troops who have served us and are serving us. Caroline Fenton is here today. Hello, Caroline. How are you?
Hello. I'm doing great. We got the band back together today. It feels great.
Ian is back here today as well. It feels
Welcome
good
back,
for
Ian.
me to be back. It's good to have Ian back. Ian, how are you?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Did you miss us as much as we missed you?
Probably not.
That's probably fair.
Man.
That's probably fair.
Talk about bringing it down. Talking about a little bit of a bummer. So, anywho, a lot of stuff to get to, including the stuff that if it went down while I was gone, maybe we'll get to it, maybe we won't. But I want to start on this. The Adam Vingan fan poll survey has been released. By the way, I got to get on Robbie and Joe. So,
classic.
Apparently, Robbie and Joe. So, the Adam Vingan thing came out, and we talked about it on, what was the last day I was here? Tuesday? On Tuesday of last week. We talked, and we did the survey ourselves. And the next day or 2 days later or whenever, Robbie and Joe talked about the survey. And Robbie and Joe were like, we're not going to read the whole survey here because you can go to The Athletic and you can subscribe to read it. And I'm like, and Robbie was like, I even told him one time, which is not true. I even told him one time that people read those or people pay for those things. And when I heard that he said that, I was like, yeah, they do. Me.
People pay for ESPN Plus, too.
We read them.
Break down a lot of ESPN Plus
We read them. What would you rather us do? Athletic, not read you or read you? And the answer is
the latter.
So Adam has the new Preds fan survey out there. And I was not going to start the show on this, but I listened to the midday show talk about this, and I got very engaged in what they were saying. So let's just get right to it. Which word best describes your feeling about the current state of the Predators? Skeptical, frustrated, pessimistic, optimistic, or apathetic? Now, I think, which one did we pick?
I said frustrated. I think you said pessimistic.
Okay. So the leading answer in the clubhouse was skeptical at 36.5. Frustrated was second at 23.2. Pessimistic, 18.5. optimistic 13, apathetic 8.9. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, 10% of the people that are doing this have no idea about anything that voted in this poll. Like, we can go ahead, when they talk about margin for error in a political poll, we can go ahead and take 10% out because one of the questions at the end was, what does the team most need? Top 6 winger, top 4 D, or backup goalie? And 9.2% said backup goalie. So once you say that, your opinion doesn't count anymore. So 10% of the people out there.
Does their opinion not count, or do you just not agree with them?
No. I mean, we're talking about a hockey club, and they're talking about the backup goalie. Backup goalie being more important than adding a top pair defenseman. That doesn't make any sense.
I'm with you, but also it doesn't mean that their opinion doesn't matter.
Well, I mean,
you
people that vote. I mean, people that vote in elections have opinions that I don't count. That I think that their opinions are right, and their vote counts. But I'm just going to say we just realize that 10% of the people voting in this are not very bright. That's how I'll say it.
All right.
So, I mean, apathetic, I'm not sure, as somebody who hosts a show, I'm not sure apathetic is the right word. 13% say optimistic. I'm not sure how you get there. Skeptical, frustrated, and pessimistic are all kind of the same. They're all from the same family.
They all have a negative undertone.
So what do we think about that? That the fans are skeptical, or they're frustrated, or they're pessimistic about the team. And I would say my number one thing about this is, duh. I mean,
they have every right to be skeptical.
Does it surprise anybody that 70% of the people, I think that's what this total's up to, that 70%, almost 80% of the people on some level or another are skeptical, frustrated, or pessimistic? You're supposed to be. Your team's not very good. That is how this works. When you're good, everybody's enjoying it. When you're not very good, nobody's happy. And the thing I like is I do feel like there was a lot of discussion, whether it was emanating from the team broadcasters when Chris Mason came on the show, or the things that Willie and Darren say, which I disagree with a lot of what they say, but I understand that they, that's their right to believe what they believe. But the reality is I think the fan base kind of sits where we are, which is we're mad that they're not very good. And we know they're not very good. We don't play this game of, they made the playoffs, so because they made the playoffs, everybody should be happy. We never played that game. We don't play that game. We're not happy with them making the playoffs.
But I think the bigger thing here, too, is not just, I think 37% of people saying skeptical, that's not just they're unhappy with the Predators not being very good right now. They're not just unhappy with the Predators not making out of the first round of the playoffs. They're not very confident about the future of the organization. It's not just now. It's next year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years that they're also concerned about as well.
Sure, but that also has to do with what just happened.
Yes, it does. It's rooted in that.
That's how, the things that bother me, the mistakes that the Predators made that bother me, that make me pessimistic or frustrated or whatever, are moves that happened in 2018. Are decisions that were made, in 2019. Those are things that you're now paying for. And that's what's they went for broke on the tourist deal, and they swung and missed. They re-signed Ryan Ellis. I begged them not to. I was like, oh, gosh, his value's so high. And that's what I think they're paying for right now, not what happened last week. I don't think they're paying for that, or what happened last month, or what happened 6 months ago. I don't think they're paying about that. On a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 being the highest, how confident are you that David Poile can return the team to Stanley Cup contender status? The most popular answer was 2. So on a scale of 1 to 5, how confident are you that David Poile can turn it around? The most popular answer was a 2, which is pretty bad.
That's bad.
If a hotel survey was, how clean was our hotel, and you gave them a 2, that's pretty bad. Now, here's where I get upset. More people voted 3, 26.2, than voted 1, 22.7. 3? I mean,
3 to me is just very indifferent.
They don't draft well. They haven't made good trades. They haven't developed very much. 3? I mean, they've never drafted a high-end forward in 23 years. And you're giving a 3? The best young player they have is Tomasino, and he will probably peak as a second-line guy. 3? Like
I
that,
don't-
3.
I don't know why you're so worked up about that.
Now 4 and 5 collectively, it's 12.7%.
So there you go.
The people that are
people
optimistic
aren't
about
overly
Poyle are not
optimistic. But I think to be like, if you take any other survey, one, it's like how likely are you to do something? 1 is like very unlikely or highly disagree. 5 is very likely or highly disagree. 3 is always indifferent. 3 is always in the middle.
But they shouldn't be in the middle. They shouldn't be indifferent. They should be one or. I mean, I voted
think
1.
skeptical also kind of goes. It's not necessarily indifferent, but I would say skeptical is more so the middle ground feeling rather than frustrated or pessimistic or optimistic. I think that kind of goes hand in hand. Skeptical means I'm not totally out, but I have my doubts. Indifferent or kind of in the middle of how confident you are that David Poyle can return the team to a Stanley Cup contender status. I think is just like, we don't necessarily hate David Poyle or the direction of this franchise. We don't necessarily love it. It's just in the middle.
So then what would the poll be with the same people of how confident are you that you can win a Super Bowl with Ryan Tannehill? Would 3 be the most popular choice there?
I don't know.
Because I
would say
I'm a 2 on Tannehill.
I would say with the Titans fans on Tannehill, I think it's more so very more polarized. You either love Tannehill or you hate Tannehill. I think with David Poyle, I think people are trending away from their confidence in David Poyle, and that's why you don't see as much of polarization. I think with Tannehill, you had that playoff game, and then that was enough for people to either stake their claim in confidence or not confidence in Tannehill. I don't know if David Poyle's gotten to that point of, that line of demarcation.
How do you feel about the Predators giving John Hines a new 2-year contract? Boy, Willie got mad at this question. So how do you feel about the Predators giving John Hines a new 2-year contract? 29.4 said for it, 29.3 said against it, 41.3 said indifferent.
That kind of goes back to that 3. It's indifferent. It's in the middle. It's unsure.
It's just like, well, I read this as people are like, who cares about the coach? That people are like, who cares about
that
the
is
coach?
a good point. It might be more so like whatever about the coach, but let's focus on David Poyle.
Now, there was one comment in here, and I'll get to the comments of what the
comments
fans
were
said.
fun.
But this one guy said, I think Hines deserves a boatload of credit for how he fixed the attitude in the dressing room and motivated Matt Duchene and Philip Forsberg. I got to tell Matthew B., who commented on that, it wasn't John Hines that was motivating Philip Forsberg. It was the money.
Dollar bills,
It was the money. That was, if you do not understand that, you do not understand pro sports. The guy who showed up at training camp and was like, I think I got to play out my contract and go from there, and then goes off and has a career year, you do not get pro sports. Do you want to hear directly from ownership about the direction of the franchise? 79.3 say yes. 20.7 say no. I've got some thoughts on that. Would you support a full-scale rebuild if it meant picking number 1 in the draft at least once? 62% said yes. 38% said no.
See, I have a problem with this question.
What's your problem with it?
Because a full-scale rebuild doesn't necessarily always mean picking 1, and it doesn't mean that you're always going to hit on 1. Because if you say, if the Predators are bad for a little bit, but they're guaranteed the number 1 pick, would you be for it? Yeah, duh. That sounds like a no-brainer. But there are so many caveats to this question that weren't laid out in the question that I don't think it's necessarily accurate.
So a lot of people don't actually understand rebuilds. There's a very basic theory about rebuilds, which is that you tear it down and you struggle and you're the worst and it's awful and 6 years later you're good. And then there's the teams that aren't very good with that and people get mad. And they're like, wait a minute. I thought we were supposed to be good because we had all these picks, but all these picks didn't do anything for us. And the reality is, it's how you pick. It's evaluating other teams' players. Those are the things that really matter as opposed to just, we got high picks, we got this, we got that. I'll give you an example. They were talking on the midday show. Well, I'll save it. We'll get to this on the other side because I do care about this rebuild thing because I think that answer is the most important one because it's telling you the fans want to rebuild. That's what I take away from that the fans want to rebuild. To me, that is, if the Predators came out today and said we are not interested in making the playoffs next year, then the fans would be like, yes. And that's just my interpretation on that. But I have a thought on what an actual rebuild looks like as opposed to how people talk about it. So we'll get to that coming up next. 615-737-1025 is our phone number if you want to weigh in again on the Adam Vingan poll. We will get to your thoughts and the comments that are included in this. 615-737-1025 as we are rocking and rolling today on a Monday, and Ian is back with us, which we're very excited about. It is hot outside, which means you better hope your HVAC system does not go out because it's so hot. Or if you need to upgrade, now is the time to do it. My friends at Hiller will tell you that there is no better time to upgrade your essential home systems than this month. Until the end of May and into June, Hiller is offering 0 interest for 60 months on select new HVAC systems. 0 interest for 12 months on new tankless water heaters. 0 interest for 12 months on new whole home generators. If you know you need a new system for your home, do it this month. These financing offers are only available for a limited time to help you stay comfortable and cool all summer and handle the payments later. Visit happyhiller.com for all the details. As always, happy you'll be or the service is free. Those are my friends at Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical, proud supporters of the Nashville Predators, the Tennessee Volunteers, and the Vanderbilt Commodores. Hiller, call the Happy Face Truck today.
Robbie and Rex Road here on ESPN.
Welcome into the DDC.
Stillman Company is delivered.
There's a new way to hear 102.5 The Game. Nashville's best sports talk on 106.3 FM. From downtown Nashville to Spring Hill on I-65 and to Murfreesboro on I-24. You now have 2 choices to hear our great sports programming.
Get the extra point, no problem.
And the Nashville Predators.
Scores!
Check out 106.3 now and save it as a preset.
From elegant to contemporary, Social Furniture has it all. And right now, get no interest financing on any purchase through Memorial Day. Save hundreds, even thousands on top brand name bedroom suites, living room and dining sets. Thousands of combinations in stock, ready for immediate delivery. All colors and styles are designer brand names, such as Woodhouse, Sealy, Serta, Kincaid, Bernhardt, Stearns & Foster, and Bassett. Shop local, shop social. Social Furniture opens 7 days a week on the west side on Charlotte Avenue in the Richland Creek Shopping Center.
An MRI is a non-invasive, pain-free way to diagnose disorders, injuries, and diseases without an X-ray or surgery. Houston Clinic Orthopedics' state-of-the-art MRI Center at 394 Harding Place is dedicated to providing the highest quality of care in orthopedics. The Houston Clinic Orthopedic team ensures that all of their MRI technologists have specialty training on orthopedic imaging and orthopedic MRI. To experience world-class orthopedic care and see a list of all physicians, visit their website at tn.houston.com and book your appointment online today.
If you missed the latest edition of Talking with TD,
former Maryland, now Titans tight end, Chig Okonkwo, from college to the NFL, there's even more learning that you could acquire. Would you say?
Oh yeah, there's so much more learning, and I've figured that out in the short time that I've been here. That even now, like I remember when coming from high school, going to college, I remember saying, "Oh, I really don't know anything about football." And now I'm saying the same thing, like, oh, I really don't know anything about football, really, because the NFL is just a completely different game. You know, it's all these different rules, these new rules, you know, different body types, a lot stronger guys, there's different techniques you got to use now, and just different schemes and all these different things. So there's definitely a huge learning curve that, you know, I'm excited for. I'm excited for the challenge to learn it all.
Search Talking with TD today on your favorite podcast platform. The newest edition drops every Wednesday at thegamenashville.com and the Game Nashville app.
Buy one, get one free admission. Beach Bend Park is your ticket to summer fun. Big park, bigger fun, and big savings with BOGO admission at Beach Bend Park and Splash Lagoon, where parking, tubes, and sunscreen are always free. 2 parks, 2 tickets for the price of 1. It's just a short drive to Bowling Green, Kentucky. Get your Beach Bend Park and Splash Lagoon BOGO deal while they last at thegamenashville.com/deals. That's thegamenashville.com/deals.
Never miss a moment of the show.
What is this? Check it out.
Subscribe to the Stillman and Company podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts. You're listening to Stillman and Company.
Presented by TriStar Moving.
On ESPN 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app.
You know, I don't know what that means. Support a full-scale rebuild. What does that mean? So you're telling us, because this is what I've been very adamant about on this show since the jump of this question and us discussing this, and I've said this over and over and over again. Okay, if that's what you want, so you're saying you're going to be in the trenches. You're going to go to the games. You're going to watch on television on Bally Sports. You're going to listen on these airwaves. You're all in still. You're going to support the team, or is it, hey, I want you to go rebuild and get some star players, and then reach out to me whenever you're good again? Because there is a huge difference. And if everybody's going to be like, heck yeah, full-scale rebuild, let's try to get that generational player, and then let me know when you do it. If that's if that's the attitude, like, no one's interested in that. You understand? Like, no one is interested. The Predators aren't interested in that. They got a business to run, not for everybody to bounce and say. And by the way, with this model, no guarantees whatsoever.
There you go. Darren today was worked up at this question in the Adam Vingan fan survey. Would you support a full-scale rebuild if it meant picking number one in the draft at least once? 62% of the people in the Adam Vingan poll said yes on The Athletic. 38% said no. And then Willie went over all the number one picks, and some of them are Connor McDavid and Austin Matthews, and some of them are this guy in New Jersey who's no good. And the guys, and so first of all, that's incredibly misleading to go over each number one pick and say, well, was Nico, what's his last name, Ian? Herschler?
Heischer.
Was Nico Heischer, was he any good? Okay, well, Cale Makar was picked fourth in that draft. And I take Cale Makar on the team right now. So I think the point that I look at here is, and this goes back to the Poyle thing, I do not have faith in David if he oversees a rebuild to draft, draft the right players. I just don't see it. I just don't, they haven't been drafting the right players for a little bit of time. They just don't have any of those players in the pipeline. Some of that's because they've been winning. But, Sebastian Aho was a second-round pick. Nikita Kucherov, I believe, was a second-round pick. So, there are good players you can get the second round.
Johnny Gaudreau, I believe, was a fourth-round pick.
And you traded a second-round pick for Jeremy Lauzon, which drove me insane, which I'll never get over. But when it comes to the rebuild, I'm going to use an example of a team in sports where they went for a rebuild, but the rebuild wasn't as painful or as bad as everybody makes it out to be because they got the right players. That's the key to all of this. Mm-hmm. If you were to rebuild, if you were the Predators, let's put Yossi aside for a second because he can't be traded unless he wants to be traded. And I would not be in favor of trading him even if I was going to rebuild. I'd sit down with him and say, hey, man, we want you to be a part of this. And that when we come out on the other side, we want you to be, Freddie Freeman. We want you to be the guy that was here the whole time as we went through this. But then everybody else is for sale. And then all of a sudden you get a bunch of picks. And the truth is not all those picks are going to be great. Some of them are going to be busts. But some of them are going to be really good. I covered the Boston Celtics in 2013. They lost in the first round of the NBA playoffs to the Knicks. The Knicks, that were led by Carmelo Anthony. And it was obvious that the Celtics, that run that they had, the Big Three era, it was obvious it was over, right? Like, at that point, Ray Allen is in Miami. Kevin Garnett's 38 years old. Paul Pierce is an old pop-pop. Like, it was obvious that it was over for them. So you know what they did? They found a team that was wanting to go for it, the Brooklyn Nets. And the Brooklyn Nets traded for Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett. Well, when you trade Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett, even though they were old, you're telling everybody that you're rebuilding, right? Mm-hmm. That's the message is Ray Allen's gone. Here's Paul Pierce. Here's Kevin Garnett.
You're getting rid of your core.
Do you know what they got in exchange for Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett?
What?
They got picks. They got 2 first-round picks. One of them ended up being Jaylen Brown. Last time I checked.
It's pretty damn good.
Pretty good. Another one ended up being Romeo Langford. Not very good.
Where is Romeo Langford these days?
Another pick that they got in that deal was used to go to Cleveland in order to get Kyrie Irving. That didn't necessarily work out. They also had an option in that deal to switch first-round picks in 2017 with the Nets. They did. They got the number 1 pick. They traded out of the number 1 pick, picked up another first-round pick, and they traded out of number 1, which was Markelle Fultz, to the 76ers. They traded to go from 1 to 3 with the 76ers. And you know who they took third?
Jason Tatum.
Jason Tatum. So the decision to trade Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce ended up equaling for the Celtics Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. They got one good pick because they only missed the playoffs one time. Now, when you hear full-blown rebuild, everybody scares you that this is a 10-year thing and there's no chance for the Predators. It'll be 8 years of boring. 1 year, they missed the playoffs. They got one lottery pick. They picked 6th and they drafted Marcus Smart. So I did the math. The difference between Brooklyn and the Celtics after those trades. Since that trade, the Celtics have won, and are still counting, obviously, because they're still playing, 50 playoff games and 10 playoff series. The Brooklyn Nets have 15 playoff wins and have won 2 series.
Oof.
So everybody looks at it like, this idea of a rebuild means that they're going to be bad, pick number 1. You have to hope the pick is good that year that you pick number 1. That's not what it is. The question is, are your evaluators good enough that when you trade Matt Duchene, and it's not going to be good, because if you're rebuilding, you trade Matt Duchene and you try to trade Granlund and all these guys that are not Yossi, like you maybe even trade the goalie. But can your evaluators get the prospects that become great players? Or can you get the picks and have your evaluators know, we're not interested in Markelle Fultz or Lonzo Ball. Let's trade down to 3 where Jason Tatum is. Because I think it's pretty obvious. Nobody's talking about this. I think it's pretty obvious the Colorado Avalanche know what they're doing. Because it wasn't like they drafted Cale Makar number 1. They drafted him 4, which means 3 teams passed on him. The Dallas Stars, who have Mikko Heiskanen, who's pretty good, but he ain't Cale Makar. The Dallas Stars could have had Cale Makar. They didn't. Their coach just got fired. Like, that's the point I guess I'm making here, is when I hear full-scale rebuild, I look at it like you're rebuilding, but if you know what you're doing, you're going to bring in 20 assets. You're going to sell off Ekholm, Granlund, Duchene, all these guys, and you're going to bring in roughly 20 assets. Who knows? Maybe you'll win some games because you got a good goalie, but maybe you'll trade him. 5 of those 20 assets are likely to be good. Everything else is going to be dog water. That's how these work. The question is, can you get the star players? I watched the Braves undergo a rebuild where the Braves, said, we're not going to be very good. And they brought in so many players with all these trades and draft picks, and half these guys stink. I mean, there's a couple of these guys that were part of the Braves rebuild that are on the Sounds, and they're just not very good. They also got Dansby Swanson. They also got Austin Riley. They also got Max Fried. They also got all these guys that contributed to them winning the World Series. So every time I see, like, to me, what this says about the picking once in the draft, at least once, a full-scale rebuild, it might be 5 years. It might be 10 years. It might be the Titans between the years of 2006 and 2017. It might be 1 year like the Boston Celtics that you don't make the playoffs in 2014. In 2018, you're in the Eastern Conference Final Game 7. And in 2022, you're in the NBA Finals. It might be that. It might not be. My bigger issue is with the person that is doing the evaluating than it is about the decision to just completely start over. But I feel like people get worked up about the word rebuild as if it means that it's going to be this Moses through the desert level, stay.
And it might be.
It might be because you might not draft right. Like, that's the key. The key to this is drafting. The key is evaluation. The key is to look at your players and to sit there and say, you know what? This guy, there's, how I feel about Preds prospects. Mm-hmm. But I heard Joe on with the Midday Show, and they were talking about Luke Evangelista. I mean, if he's a freaking horse, then figure it out and keep him. If he's really a pony, but the prospect people think he's really, really good, sell him. That's how this works. But it's trusting the person doing the evaluating. And that's what I don't trust, is who's doing the evaluating. It's like Willie was texting me. We were texting about the Mets. And Willie was like, talking about how the Mets have a bunch of bad general managers. And that's true. The Mets hired an agent to be their general manager a couple years ago, and he traded the top 2 prospects, one of whom is the top prospect for the Mariners and is probably going to have a great career. They traded him to get an old Robinson Cano because the agent, who is now general manager, had Robinson Cano as a client. That's just stupid.
Yeah, that's just dumb.
And so those are the things you have to
That's
avoid.
helping yourself instead of the club.
It's just those are the things you have to avoid.
Then
Jerry Krause didn't undergo a rebuild in order to get Scottie Pippen and Horace Grant in the same draft. He was smart about what he did. He traded Charles Oakley for Bill Cartwright. People thought that was crazy. The Lakers made the playoffs in the same offseason in which Jerry West turned around and traded his starting center to move up in the first round because they had the 24th pick because they had made the playoffs and they had a decent squad, but the Lakers had no chance to compete for the championship. And do you know why they traded Vlade Divac, their starting center, to the Charlotte Hornets?
Why?
Because they wanted Kobe Bryant. So those are the things you have to evaluate. That's what this is about. To me, it's about evaluation more than it is just the assumption of, well, let's tear it down and then let's be good, or, oh, you might not ever be good, or you might. You have to trust the person doing the evaluating. That's my bone of contention here. Hold that. We'll get to it, and I see your phones. 615-737-1025. Again, we are all over the Adam Vingan fan survey at The Athletic. What are your thoughts? Stillman and Company right here. It's ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Hey, I'm Ryan Johansson, and this is Smashville.
Back to Johansson, and Johansson tips it in with one hand on the stick.
You're listening to the flagship of the Nashville Predators radio network, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
This segment of ESPN 102.5 The Game is brought to you by Train Heating and Cooling Systems. Tested, retested, engineered, and re-engineered to keep up with you. We run together. Visit traininfo.com to find your local independent train dealer. Traininfo.com. It's hard to stop a train.
Upgrade your diamond studs this summer with no money down and 0 interest for 5 years. Yes, you can do it now at Genesis Diamonds. It's our best financing of the year. Not just on diamond studs, but rings, bracelets, bands, colored gemstone jewelry. Buy now, pay nothing down, and spread your payments over 5 years with 0 interest. So those 2-carat studs, just $85 a month. One-of-a-kind designer jewelry also included in this spectacular offer. Only available until June 18th. And only at Genesis Diamonds. Green Hills and Cool Springs. On approved credit.
This is Stan Harrison, CEO of Apple Collision Centers. We understand that no one likes to deal with auto body repair and the inconvenience it becomes in your day-to-day life. I want to personally invite you to stop by and let our experienced staff see how we can help you make your vehicle look good as new. Apple Collision Center has 3 convenient locations, Old Hickory, Hendersonville, and Gallatin, ready to serve you. Come by and see us or visit us online at applecollisioncenters.com.
Erectile dysfunction ruins sex, but it's more than that. It harms otherwise good relationships. It destroys marriages. It can cause depression and anxiety, and it can be extremely hard on a man's self-esteem. This is Kim for the Tennessee Men's Clinic, and if you're suffering with ED, if it's affecting you, I want you to know that if you're like most men, we can treat it and get you back to the man you used to be. At the Tennessee Men's Clinic, we're ED experts. Our protocols have success rates as high as 90%. We've successfully treated thousands of men in the Music City, and we have a variety of treatment options and treatment combinations that could have you performing like you haven't in years. You could even last up to an hour and experience great sex again that is satisfying for both you and your partner. In treating your health, expertise matters, so make an appointment today. Your initial appointment is only $99 and includes blood work and a medical consult. Call 615-208-9090 or go to TennesseeMen'sClinic.com. Visit our website to learn more, including side effects. Treatments extra. Results vary.
If you've got a yard, you may plan on digging in it. Like to build an addition, put in a pool, or bury your pirate booty. But you should know that throughout the country, there may be pipelines buried underground. And if you hit one, you've got trouble. Sorry. So before you dig, call 811 to have any buried pipelines located and marked at no charge. For more tips on pipeline safety, visit pipesafety.org. A message from the Tennessee Gas Association, Tennessee Association of Broadcasters, and this station.
Hey, Nashville, it's Chase McKay, Program Director of ESPN 102.5 The Game, and there's a new way that you can hear Nashville's best sports talk. It's on 106.3 FM. From downtown Nashville to Spring Hill on I-65 and to Murfreesboro on I-24, you now have 2 choices to hear our great sports talk programming. And, of course, the Nashville Predators. Check out 106.3 now and save it as a preset.
Robbie and Rex Road here on ESPN.
Welcome into the DDC.
Stillman Company is delivered.
There's a new way to hear 102.5 The Game. Nashville's best sports talk on 106.3 FM. From downtown Nashville to Spring Hill on I-65 and to Murfreesboro on I-24. You now have two choices to hear our great sports programming. Get the extra point, no problem. And the Nashville Predators. Scores! Check out 106.3 now and save it as a preset.
Hey, this is Philip Forsberg. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
We want you to do better. We want to do better for everybody, for our fans. The players want to do better. I just thought this year was a really good stepping stone to the future. But it's not going to be easy. That was your original question. It's not going to be easy because Colorado, McKinnon first pick, Cal McCarr fourth pick, Rantanen top 10, Landeskog 2, and we haven't had the luxury of that. But we found a way to be competitive. We haven't found a way to get to the ultimate prize. So I don't like the alternative, if that's what you're saying. And now we've heard that twice already about this rebuild. I included that in my comments. Everybody's rebuilding all the time. It's my druthers to keep moving forward to try to get there this way than to have a complete rebuild. I don't think that's necessary.
There you go. David Poile is not interested in a rebuild. 62% of the fans, according to the Adam Vingan poll on The Athletic, 62% of the fans said yes. And again, they need big boy forwards. My bigger issue is the evaluation. I don't think the Predators have done a very good job of drafting. I don't think the Predators do a good job of evaluating their own players. I'm not sure they do a great job of evaluating other people's players. I think that's how you end up with a Kyle Turris trade. I think they fall in love with their own guys. I think that's how you extend Ryan Ellis as opposed to trading him when he's maxed out his value. That is my issue. But again, I don't think a rebuild has to last forever. You just have to be creative and you have to be gutsy. That's what I would say. Do you want to go to the phones or do you have a thought?
Well, I do wonder the apprehension of a rebuild. Is it because David Poile wants to turn things around while he's still at the helm? Because I don't know, and I don't know David Poile's intentions for the rest of his career, but however long a rebuild might last, is he nervous of not being able to see it through? And then he rebuilds it, burns it to the ground. The Predators are bad for a year or two, and then he decides to retire. Is that necessarily how he wants to go out? Is David Poile trying to repair it as much as they can to be as competitive as possible while he's in the seat that he's in?
So most of the time, I will say this, the guys who organize the rebuild usually become casualties of it. So, for instance, Rod Thorne drafted Michael Jordan. Jerry Krause was the general manager who, saw it at the end of the Bulls. Mm-hmm. Danny Ainge, we went over that kind of Celtics mini rebuild. Danny Ainge was the general manager. He's out now. Brad Stevens is in that role, and they've got a new coach. And I'm not sure Stevens is going to make it that much longer. I think, ultimately they're going with the coach here. Del Harris was the coach of the Lakers when they drafted Kobe Bryant and they acquired Shaquille O'Neal. And obviously it was Phil Jackson who was the coach when they were winning championships. So I do think there is something to that of, does David know that if they were to go that route, that he's probably done so? Because there's no way. The team cannot start next season the way they ended last season. They cannot do it. If they do it, you have to fire the general manager. You have to fire the coach. That's just sports. And I do think there's probably a fear of that. Adam in Portland is going to kick us off. 615-737-1025. Phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Go ahead, Adam.
Ian and Jared, welcome back, man. You know what? I don't like change, so I'm used to you guys every day. So I thought Miss Caroline did fine by herself and with Chase, but I missed you guys. So I don't think he's going to have a choice in whether he rebuilds or not, man. It sounds good. I don't know anybody that says, hey, we're going to stink for a while. But Forsberg's clearly not coming back. Do y'all feel that?
No, I think he's 100% coming back.
I feel the exact
opposite.
What
player that's under contract with a team doesn't come to the fans and go, yeah, of course I want to be here? No, he does not want to be here. He wants to go get paid and play in a market that understands how good he is. We don't, obviously, because they would have already paid him by now. So I don't think they got a choice but to tear it down, man. I don't think our goalie's as good as we make him out to be. I don't think our defense is nearly as good as the defense that we're all used to seeing from the Predators. And our scorers that we're super impressed with, like, they don't want to be here. So, yeah, I say tear it down.
Okay, so I think it's a hot take. Thank you for calling him. I think that's kind of I just disagree with the take. I think Forsberg wants to be here. I think the thing with Forsberg is I think he's going to use whatever he gets on the market and bring it back to the Predators. Because the money that the Predators can offer more money than the other teams. It's why the NHL allows you to give 8 years to your own players. So it's basically take it somewhere else, show us what you – I don't think it's about the money. I think it's about the trade protection. I think it is about the idea of, hey, you gave it to Roman Josi, you shipped off my buddy Arvidsson, other teams are going to want me. What's the difference between me signing with you, knowing that we're not going to compete for the cup anytime soon, me signing with you if you can just trade me at your next whim? You've already left Duchesne and Johansson unprotected. You've already traded Arvidsson, Subban, Weber, and Ellis. So what's any different from me? You guys benched Pekka Rinne. I've seen it. And that's what I think this is about. I think he's 100% coming back because I think he wants to be here. I think he's 100% coming back because David Poile knows that he has to keep him or else the fans are going to be furious. And I think that the fans care more about the Forsberg thing than I care about the Forsberg thing because I care more about the future of the organization. My bones with the Forsberg issue are in the past, what they didn't do or what they should have done in the past. You can't cry over spilled milk. I do believe that he wants to be back, and I do believe that he will be back.
He's come out and said that he wants to be back. And the Predators, David Poile has come out and said that they want to re-sign Philip Forsberg. Both parties want to get to the same end result. Just how you get there and what the terms of it are, that's what they're negotiating over, not where he wants to be or what the Predators want to do with him.
What do we have in the text line? 615-737-1025.
One texter checks in and says, Poile stated in the end-of-the-year press conference that he has the support of ownership in his plan. He clearly stated he doesn't want to do a full rebuild, so it's probably not going to happen anytime soon with both ownership and management not wanting to do it.
So a lot of these teams that have been rebuilding for forever, when people are like, do you want to be like Ottawa? Ottawa didn't try to rebuild. Ottawa was in Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Final the same year against the Penguins that you lost to them in 6 in the Cup Final. The next year, they traded Kyle Turris to bring in Matt Duchene. That was that move that you got Kyle Turris, they got Matt Duchene, and Colorado got all those picks and Sam Girard and everything else. That move right there, that was because they were trying to compete. They just haven't competed since then. I mean, the poor guy who owned the Ottawa Senators just passed away of cancer. You think he was trying to rebuild at the end of his life? No. He wanted to win. But sometimes you get forced into it. I feel like the way things are trending with if David Poile doesn't go out of his way to rebuild, then the rebuild will happen on its own. But when you can get out in front of it and you can kind of control it more and you can do it, let's use the Boston Celtics as an example.
Mm-hmm.
What if they had let Paul Pierce walk as a free agent? And they were like, no, we made the playoffs last year. Let's keep Pierce and Garnett. Let's try to keep this together. 5 years ago, we were competing for the championship. Let's keep this the way it is. Then they wouldn't have Jason Tatum, and they wouldn't have Jaylen Brown, and they probably wouldn't have Marcus Smart. So maybe they would have drafted other guys, but at some point, Pierce and Garnett would have walked away, and the whole process would have started over without the Brooklyn picks that allowed them to get Tatum and Brown. And that's why they're in the NBA Finals right now.
And that's the Celtics getting ahead of a certain situation rather than I look at the Nets even now. And I think it's always picking retroactively.
Yes.
Who has been good? We want them.
Yes.
And I think it's the same thing with the Predators. At some point, you have to get ahead of the talent. At some point, you have to say, that's the guy that we want to develop into being our superstar player, not picking superstars and trying to place them within your system.
I think that is so much easier to do. I think it is.
It's proven.
But
also, you don't know how successful you can be. I mean, look at the Brooklyn Nets. They have Ben Simmons and James Harden and Kevin Durant, all players who have found success elsewhere. And the Nets said, okay, come here, come be successful with us. And it's not working. The Boston Celtics, on the other hand, drafted and developed players, and they weren't great at the beginning, but now look at where they are.
They drafted.
It's the same thing that the Predators can do. It's the same thing that any team can do.
In this process.
Get ahead of the talent or chase it.
In this process, the Celtics in the first round have drafted James Young, They've drafted Romeo Langford.
Not great.
They brought in Kyrie Irving. You know, they've done a lot of this stuff. Like, they've done a lot of the, you know, that wasn't a great first pick right there. But when you have so many, it allows you to, you know, take your chances. And then if you make 10 first-round picks, the Titans had 3 second-round picks in 2016. 3 second-round picks. They drafted Kevin Dodd, bust, Austin Johnson, average player, Derrick Henry. So the more chances you get, the more likely you are to get the big star. And how do you get more chances? You get picks. How do you get picks? You trade your players. That's how this works. One of the reasons why the Predators don't have any players, they don't have any picks. They traded for Brian Boyle and Wayne Simmons and Ryan Hartman, and they've traded the picks. They traded a second-round pick for Jeremy Lozon 3 months ago. Everybody with a right mind is thinking, what in the what? And they're like, no, you don't understand. And I'm like, you've been giving me the I don't understand for forever. You've been giving it to me for forever. I was telling somebody the other day when we got into our argument about Alex Carrier, and I made you watch a tape. And I was like, no, we're putting the tape on. Alex Carrier tried to back-check Gabriel Landeskog in Colorado.
And he fell.
And Carrier fell down. He stinks. And I got Chris Mason sitting here telling me like, no, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, no. I've heard this about Craig Smith. I've heard this about Kyle Turris. I've heard this about all these guys that everybody tells me what to think. And then I watch the games. And after a little bit of watching the games, I'm like, what? And I'm like, that doesn't seem right.
I still will not go as far as to say that.
He sucks.
I know it bugs you to no end.
He sucks. It's like we put on the tape.
Suck.
We put on the tape and he freaking sucked. Did we not put on the tape and him drop his stick?
You
the guy
made
goes
sure
right
to pull up the highlights from the Colorado game and to point out every point in which Alexander Carrier didn't produce.
Ian, back me up on this one. Does Carrier suck?
I don't know if I would go as far as suck, but I think he's a little overrated / average.
6-1, and Ian's never going to say he sucks. 615-737-1025. Who sucks on the Predators, Ian?
In what way?
That they're not very good.
I'd say Ben Harper is probably my number one up there as far as not good.
Like, who actually plays, though, that you would say sucks?
I would probably, McCarron is up there. Michael McCarron's probably up there.
So you have to be really bad for Ian to say you suck.
Probably
that's what sucks means.
Yeah. Carrier sucks.
Sucks means really bad.
2 years from now, Alex Carrier will not be on this team.
Guarantee?
Go ahead and guarantee it. He stinks. 615-737-1025. We're back to your phones. Plus, the one thing that the media in this town seems to care way more about than I think the fans care about when it comes to this. We'll get to that next. Stillman and Company. It's ESPN 1025 The Game.
At some point, it's a combination of who did you play and what does your skill set look like.
Get the best analysis of the big stories in the sports world with ESPN's Jason Fitz.
If you reach for a quarterback in the draft because you need one, you're going to set your franchise back 5 years.
Join Fitzy every Wednesday at 4:30. Presented by Blood Assurance. Jason Fitz.
I am 5'9.5"
on ESPN
102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
From the Fox 17 News Code Red Weather Center.
I'm Fox 17 News Code Red meteorologist Dan Guthrie. A lot of sunshine for us this afternoon and warm. High temperatures heading to the lower 90s. A little humid today, but you'll notice that more tomorrow.
This weather report brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical.
Call the Happy Face Truck today.
Hi guys, it's Andrew with Hillside Medical Clinic. Is erectile dysfunction damaging your relationship? Are you sick of the pill and all the side effects? Well, welcome to the future. We have a major medical breakthrough. Hillside Medical Clinic uses the most advanced form of wave therapy. Backed by 60 clinical studies, our technology uses pressure waves to repair and open up blood vessels. We've helped countless men get rid of their ED. But what is the true end result? Their relationship, even their lives, improve drastically. If you're ready to regain your love life, call us right now, and not only will the assessment and ultrasound be free, we'll also give you a gift that produces immediate results in the bedroom. It almost never fails. This is worth $550, and it's free to callers right now. 615-576-5000. That's 615-576-5000. Put a stop to your erectile dysfunction and experience what I call the happiness ripple effect. Call Hillside Medical Clinic now, 615-576-5000.
Hey, Robbie Stanley here to tell you can go yard all May long with $5 Dinger Tuesdays on FanDuel Sportsbook. This season, all customers will get $5 for every home run hit by both teams when you place a $25 to hit a home run wager on Tuesday MLB games. And the best part about Dinger Tuesdays is even if your bet loses, FanDuel will pay you $5 for every home run hit. I like Vlad Guerrero Jr. of the Toronto Blue Jays. He can absolutely crush the ball when he gets a hold of it, but you take it any way you want to take it. What are you waiting on? Just pick your home run hitter and turn big swings into big wins. There's no better place to bet America's pastime than on America's #1 sportsbook. Head on over to your FanDuel account or download the FanDuel Sportsbook app and sign up using promo code ROB. Once again, that promo code is ROB. Must be 21 or older and present in Tennessee. Bonus issued is non-withdrawable site credit that expires in 7 days. A max bonus of $25. Restrictions apply. See full terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Got a gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line at 1-800-889-9789.
The Ainsworth Nashville has been bringing a sophisticated twist to the classic All-American Sports Bar, restaurant, and private event experience in Midtown since 2018. Our multi-purpose venue consists of a full-scale restaurant, bar and lounge, and event space. Come for the wings, stay for our happy hour, and visit us for brunch on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. We've got the good times to keep you singing all night long. The Ainsworth Nashville. Burgers, cocktails, sports.
Visit the Ainsworth at 206 21st Avenue South in Nashville or online at theainsworth.com.
Darren McFarland.
I feel like we're a better playoff team.
Willie Donick.
You're in a window of a division you can win.
Chase McCabe.
I'm not signing him for more than $1 million.
The DDC. Weekdays from 10 to 2.
Presented by Spring Hill Heating and Cooling.
On Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN.
102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app. You're listening to Stillman and Company.
Sounds like this has been a game-changing day for all of us.
Presented by TriStar Moving.
On ESPN.
102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app.
A significant amount of cap, at least according to the data that we have.
Yeah.
Is the off-season that you start spending a little bit more? Do you feel this team is in a place where you can use a significant portion of that space to add?
Well, plug Philip Forsberg in there, and there's not that significant amount of space, and so that that brings it full circle. So as to what we do and what plan, the Forsberg plan, and if we go in a different direction. But yes, it feels like this would be a year that, regardless, that we'll be spending to the cap. But, I don't want to spend for the sake of doing it. I get the right player. So it's always a little bit of a puzzle, which again just to bring you closer into our world here. Even like a coach is living day to day, and John and I kid about that all the time and that. But when management, we have 3 to 5 year plans. So just using Ellis and Arvidsson for example, with their salary made, what they make, like if we still had them on our team, we would be in a very tough position to actually be able to sign Forsberg right now. So lots of things go into the whole situation.
There you go. They got the cap space, though. Who knows what they'll do with it? I'm reading this book. It's called 3 Ring Circus by Jeff Pearlman, who writes a lot of like the behind-the-scenes stuff. Mm-hmm. And this is about the Lakers, about Shaq, Kobe, Phil Jackson. And, boy, Kobe and Shaq hated each other. I mean, freaking hated each other, which everybody already knows. But the Lakers. So, basically, the cheap organizations with the cheap owners that are like, oh, God, why are we paying the players all this money?
Yes.
So that's how the Orlando Magic work. And they offered Shaq $50 million, and the going rate at this point for a star in the NBA was $100 million, so Shaq is probably be worth $110 million. So they offered Shaq like $54 million. Well, so Shaq was kind of like, screw you. And then the Lakers realized, oh, we could get in on Shaq. Well, so they had to create cap space. So they offered Shaq $115 million. Well, now Orlando's like, oh, I guess we got to offer Shaq $115 million. If they had just offered Shaq $115 million straight up,
he probably would have taken it.
Shaq. So Jerry West then trades his 6th best player and 8th best player, I forget their names, trades him to Vancouver for a bag of chips because he wanted to open up the cap space in order to get Shaq. That is when cap space is okay for me. Like, if you're going to go get Shaquille O'Neal, go create the cap space. You'll figure it out some way, somehow. You'll open it up to go get that player. If that player's not there, it won't be. One thing that does bother me, though, and then I promise your phones, the Nashville media, our midday show, I don't know if our morning show does this that much. Corey Curtis just tweeted me about this. If you rebuild, are those fans still going to show up? And I have two thoughts about that. Thought number one, it's freaking sports. So if your team's not winning a bunch and the fans don't show up, that happens. That happens. If the team stays the same, they're not going to sell as many tickets as they sold last year. You were in the building for that round one last year. You were in the building for the Carolina series. It wasn't the same thing.
It was different.
So that is one thing. Two, I think they will still sell tickets. I mean, I remember when the big argument around town was you can't talk about the Predators on the radio because not that many people care about them. And then you go into the building and it was packed to the top every time. I'm like, how is this possible? Where's this dichotomy here? There can't just be 20,000 fans. The reality is that it's something cool to do. Yeah. And in Nashville, people will do things that are cool to do. So people will still go to the games, even if the team's not that good. And if they're not great and people don't go to the games, that's sports. That's how it works. If the Yankees aren't good, people don't go to the Yankee games. And they're the Yankees. That's sports. So I don't know why everybody in the media is like, well, will the fans still go if the team rebuilds?
Well, there's a business aspect to it.
It's sports.
They have to sell tickets. They need butts in seats. There is a business aspect to the Predators. But I always go back to devil you do know or devil that you don't. Because if you continue to do what you're doing and people can expect the same things year after year after year, that's just boring. Yeah, people will still go to the games because, again, it's something fun to do, and they're Predators games. Predators games are a blast.
Yes.
And
they're kind of a status symbol.
Yeah. It's fun to be seen at a game.
It's downtown.
They're fun games to go to. I mean, it's like Bridgestone is smack dab in the middle of the heartbeat of the city. People are still going to be there. The Predators are still going to matter. I understand the business side of things. However, you can't just stay the same the entire time because you're afraid of the alternative.
Bob in Antioch's up next. Go ahead, Bobby.
Good afternoon, guys. Assuming that they sign Forsberg, and that's a gigantic assumption, I want to deal with the present. Who do you think that they should go after in the free agent market with regard to maybe a couple of forwards and a top four defenseman? I want to, everybody worries about the future, but I want to know the next few weeks. I want to deal with the present.
So I don't know. I haven't looked at it. I mean, all the guys out there, I appreciate your call. They're all going to get overpaid. So if you get Nazem Kadri, he's never going to be as good as he was in the St. Louis series, and he's a dirty player.
Johnny Gaudreau is another one that you're going to have to pay $9+ a year.
He's not going to want to come here. I mean,
he's a name on the free agent market.
Yeah, I mean,
that you're going to have to pay a boatload of money. Kevin Fiala is another name.
He's not going to want to. He is not going to want to come.
A player
here.
that the Predators are even going to want to go after?
He's
Probably
not.
But that's a name on the free agent market.
So, I mean, maybe I just have not gotten into it because I just don't think it matters. Like if they were to sit there and say, "Hey, we're going to take our $24 million. What is it? $24 million in cap space? We're going to take our $24 million. We're going to give Forsberg 8, and then or 8.5 or whatever, and then we'll go from there." Like, I mean, I just don't think that they can get good enough by paying the guys that are going to be out there. I think what's going to happen too is people are going to take what you offer them, and then they're going to go back to their other clubs and say, "Hey, Nashville's offering me this." And so either you're going to completely overpay for somebody or you're going to, be used as leverage because that's how most of this stuff works. So I don't think any of those guys make the difference between you and the Avalanche. So I don't think it matters. But now if you were to tell me that you were going to take on a bad contract but get a good player as well, then I could listen. But David Poyle told Adam Vingan he wasn't going to do that. Go to the text. What do we have quickly?
One texter checks in and says, Forsberg is not great. He's very good, but if he was great this year, it wouldn't have been his first 40-goal season. If you want to see great forwards, watch Edmonton, Colorado tonight.
Oh, my God. I could not believe the one thing in this Adam Vingan poll that drove me nuts that I thought was truly, like, I saw this answer and I almost thought, like, you know what, just throw the Adam Vingan thing in the trash. Which player has the best chance of repeating their career best performance? Yossi, Forsberg, Duchesne, or none? None was the worst option at 8.9.
And I think that was the one answer we all unanimously said, yeah, probably none.
It's the most obvious. Oh, I couldn't believe it. 615-737-1025. Taylor Lewan is mad at me. We'll get into that next. Stillman & Company. It's ESPN 102.5 The Game.
You love the game.
Duchesne scores! Titans touchdown!
We live the game.
He's more of a physical receiver.
Are you looking for him? Is he making plays?
We are.
Terang, it's a high fly ball.
The leading receiver.
Awesome
game 7.
Checkered flag in the air.
The game. Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
IndyCar is back for more. The Big Machine Music City Grand Prix returns to Nashville August 5th through 7th. For 3 days, the streets of downtown Nashville will come alive with the sounds of music and racing. 3-day tickets are on sale now for as low as $129. The Big Machine Music City Grand Prix is a weekend full of action-packed excitement. Don't miss out on this year's biggest party. Visit MusicCityGP.com to buy tickets. That's MusicCityGP.com.
The body is a machine by itself. Given the right ingredients, during the right situation, some things can be healed naturally.
Football legend Emmitt Smith learned that pain pills and surgeries are only Band-Aids for chronic joint pain. A smarter, longer-lasting solution? Natural biologic treatments from QC Kinetics.
With QC Kinetics, it's that way. It's that natural process of allowing my body to actually heal itself.
With no downtime and no drugs, QC Kinetics regenerative pain treatments can repair and restore damaged tissue, bringing lasting pain relief in your knees, shoulders, hips, and lower back.
What I like about working with QC Kinetics is the natural aspect of it. The body has a way of reconnecting itself and re-healing itself.
Call QC Kinetics now for a free consultation.
If you tried it other ways, there's a new method.
Call QC Kinetics, 615-249-4024. That's 615-249-4024. QC Kinetics, 615-249-4024.
The hottest financing offer is back at Genesis Diamonds. 5 years, 0-interest financing with nothing down on practically everything in the showroom. That $3,000 eternity ban is just $50 a month. Buy now, put nothing down, and spread your payments over 5 years with 0 interest. Available till June 18th only. Get that $6,000 designer ring and pay just $100 a month. We'll even finance the sales tax. Fine jewelry has never been more affordable at Genesis Diamonds. Green Hills and Cool Springs on approved credit.
When you want to rock.
Let's go, don't wait. This night's almost over. Do all the monsters come out at night? Why do we sleep when we want to hide?
We are Nashville's rock station. 102.9 The Buzz. From the Hillside Medical Game Studios, WPRT-FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne.
Robbie and Rex Road to DDC.
Stillman and Company.
Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 and 106.3.
Terang, it's a high fly ball.
The leading receiver.
Awesome
game 7.
Checkered flag in the air.
The Game.
a Cromwell Media Station.
Where you have a voice.
We're one play away from an injury.
He knows this. He's a study of the game.
And we have strong opinions.
He's been awful. I don't think they were trying, and that's why I feel the way I feel.
This is Stillman and Company with Jared Stillman and Caroline Fenton. Presented by TriStar Moving on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app.
Stillman and Company is delivered by TriStar Moving, ESPN 102.5. The Game streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. Thanks to the law offices of Amanda Gentry, live from the Hillside Medical Game Studios. Taylor LeWan's not very happy with me.
That's okay.
Oh,
you got.
Of all the things that keep me up at night,
you shaking in your boots.
How
over
Taylor
this?
LeWan feels about me might be the most important thing. So I was on vacation last week, and I don't like. I think you've noticed that I don't like talking about this weekend I was hanging out. People don't care. They want the sports.
Yeah.
So I'm on vacation, and I was in Jamaica, and I'm under the how do I put this the right way? The Jamaican influence.
Okay.
In Jamaica.
Okay.
Which is
Say
totally, whatever. It's Jamaica. And they were yaman, and we were having a great time.
They were yamaning.
Oh my God, so many yamans.
So many yamans.
It's like I think they felt like they needed to do that. It's like if you were to go on Broadway.
Like if you went to Cabo and they put sombreros on you, it's like they kind of feel like you have to do that,
have to,
playing
right.
into the shtick.
Right. It's kind of like Broadway stuff where they feel like they have to like line.
You gotta say hee-haw.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Anywho, so I'm in Jamaica, and somebody texts me, and they're like, I think Taylor Lewan's talking about you. And so the Bussin' with the Boys podcast, they had a video, and it was Taylor Lewan talking about questions he didn't like at OTAs. So I listened to it, and I'm like, all right, let's see what this is. Basically, Taylor Lewan does not like the questions that I asked of him. Now, before we get into this, I'm sure Ian bleeped this out, but the word that he used to describe me was...
It's not conventional.
Slap wiener, but not wiener.
Yes.
So that
it's
was
not
the word.
a conventional one. I do have to give him points for creativity.
Yeah. So that's what he said about me. Let me just state this for the record. I am not going to get into a urination contest with Taylor Lewan. Like, I'm not interested in that, but I do want to discuss what he actually critiques. So this is what Taylor Lewan said about my questions on Bussin' with the Boys.
He was over to my left a little bit, and you can kind of, I don't know if you guys heard the whole interview, but he was asking some dumbass questions. I don't know him. Like, I know to play villain, so like for me, it's fun to play like the villain to villain, which I guess would be a hero. You know what I'm saying? But it's not necessarily trying to be the hero.
Yeah.
This Slappy to my left asked me some dumbass question. I answer it, and I go, I see what you're trying to do there, bub.
Can you say what the question was?
I don't remember it. I think it had to do with Tannehill. He was like, do you like, no, because that wasn't him. He asked me a dumb question. I was like, I see what you're trying to do there.
So here's what I want to do. Let's play the question. Let's decide. So the first question was a response. The first thing is a response to a John Glennon question about why he's at OTAs. And then I cut out the questions in between just to give you the follow-up of what I asked. So Ian, please.
It's because it's more than just being about, like, it's not like about me. This situation, me being here at OTAs, like, I'm trying to get better, work on my physical strength and my conditioning. But at the same time, like, 11 guys are in the field at one point, and whether it's helping Nick out with something or Dylan trying to find a role in this team, or it's stepping into a role of leadership that I've kind of shied away from a long time, being able to help those guys with the knowledge that I have, playing as long as I have at the level I have. So I think it's important for me to be here.
You thought it was important for you to be here.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's important for the guys that are leaders on this team that aren't here to be here?
No, I think it's important for those guys to do what they think is best for them to get ready for the season. I'm just doing what I think is best for me and to help this offensive line in my mind. You know, guys like Jeff and stuff like that. Jeff, you see the way he plays. You see if you guys were at practice during camp, whether it's individual or teams, if you're here the whole time, you're going to see him on everybody. His leadership, when he gets here, he's going to step right back in where he was. Derek is going to step right back in where he was. For me, as much turnover as we had and stuff like that, it was important for me to get here for myself, to get on a better foot than I did last year, and to help those guys. But it's nothing against them. Everyone's allowed to do whatever they want to do. But I like that. That was a nice little, almost way to screw me over right there. Radio.
Okay. Was it a bad question?
I don't think so. Here's my approach with questions with the media. 99.9% of the time, the question that person is asking is for whatever they're working on. An article, a radio show, a newscast, whatever it is. So questions are framed differently coming from different members of the media. So let's say, for example, Joe Rexroad is writing a column about Taylor Lewan's leadership on the offensive line, and he asks a question that might be completely irrelevant to our radio show, but he's writing his column. Ask whatever you want, Joe. It's your own prerogative, sure. Whatever you need. So I don't ever, very, very, very rarely will I ever look at a media person's question and say, that was a bad question.
Oh, I do.
Because I don't know what they're working on. I don't know what they're asking about. I don't know what their MO is.
I sometimes people are just asking questions to ask questions. That drives me insane. But, I mean, again, I'm asking
but
you
it's something that we were talking about on the radio show, so we can't talk about on the radio show and then not ask Taylor Lewan about
Was it a bad question? I don't think it was a bad question. He said it was important for him to be there. So if it's important for you to be there, is it not important for Jeffrey Simmons for the same reasons, Derrick Henry for the same reasons, all those other guys? Now, I asked another question, and boy, he got mad about this one. This is what he said about my second question on Bussin' with the Boys.
Then people are asking me about O-line and he jumps out of nowhere and goes, what do you see Dylan Radnews as? A guard or a tackle? And I go, I see him as a football player. I'm like,
great answer. Great answer.
Hey, that should be teach tape. That should be teach tape.
Yes.
And I look over and I'm like, I don't even know you like that. Like, why are you asking me these questions? Like, literally kind of getting on. I'm like, that's strike two, bud. Yeah, what are you doing?
Okay, couple thoughts here. Number one, I love that should be teach to him. Like, first off, going to have to explain the rules of OTAs. I cannot tell you who is lined up at tackle, who is lined up at guard, who is lined up at receiver, who is lined up at quarterback. I cannot tell you if Ryan Tannehill took reps with the first team at quarterback. I can't do it. Those are the rules that are put out by the Titans. So what do? You ask a question like that, and then normally the player will sit there and say, oh, yeah, Dylan showed that, a lot of things that he looks like he's pretty good playing X position or Y, whatever, and then we can talk about it because he said it. Those are the rules. I'm trying to work around their rules to be able to talk to you about my biggest concern with the team, which right now is the mess of the offensive line, and I can't even tell you what I don't like about it. So that should be taught to him. The second thing is, I'm not sure that that's a bad question either. Like, you're the best tackle on the team. So when you talk about him getting better, is he getting better as a tackle? Here was the actual interaction.
You seen a difference in Dylan, coming in here as a rookie versus coming in year 2?
Yeah, I think there's always a big step going from year 1 to year 2, and it's not having the surprise look on your face. He knows what to expect, and obviously we didn't have much of an OTAs last year, but Dylan has done a great job of his conditioning, his strength, knowing the playbook. I think he's taking good steps in that direction, but we're not going to know really anything till pads are on.
Do you see him as a tackle?
I see him as a football player. I'll tell you what, dude, that's strike 2 with me. I don't know you.
Okay, couple things. Number 1, what does that mean, that strike 2? Like, what's strike 3?
You're out.
Oh, what's strike 8?
And also, he said it in that response, and he also said it on the podcast. I don't know you like that. Well, you're not supposed to know me like that, Taylor.
Well,
we're members of the media.
So I think this is like the I'm better than you kind of thing. I mean, Taylor Lewan went on the Pat McAfee show, and he said that the Aaron Rodgers stuff was all clickbait, and I've seen it, and everybody's seen it. Okay, well, if you saw it, then it's come from us. He said in that video, or in that press conference or whatever, on the field after the OTAs the other day, he was like, I see all the Tannehill stuff. Well, if you see all the Tannehill stuff, it's from us. I'm always a firm believer in the Mike Francesa, who was a longtime radio host in New York. His theory was the people who say they don't listen the most. So I really find it hard to believe. And I'm not sitting here to sit there and say, I'm the best. But I really have a hard time believing that, he doesn't know who I am. I have a he followed me on Twitter.
But either way,
but again,
it doesn't matter if he knows you or not.
I know, but it's the trying to be cool thing. Like, that's the, and I don't care about the personal stuff. Like the whole, slap this, like, I'm not, there's a guy, I don't know if you saw this over the weekend. There's a guy who covers the 49ers who got into it with Javon Kinlaw, and it was really embarrassing.
Yeah.
And like, I'm not trying to be antagonistic like that. I'm just trying to ask the questions. Here's my question to everybody. Were they bad questions? Were they bad questions, yes or no?
No, I don't think so.
Ian, were they bad questions?
I don't necessarily think they were bad questions, but I guess I could see where he could maybe think that they were a little gotcha-y questions.
So I hear like clearly he's upset about it if a couple days later he's going on his podcast to talk about how he didn't like the questions that I asked. Dude, Tannehill gets it way worse than you do. The coach gets it way worse than you do. The Predators get it way worse than you do. Like, again, I just think about it like this. If I'm going to say it on the radio, I might as well ask you about it.
I think that's your responsibility as somebody who says something on the radio to ask them about it.
And most radio people don't see that as their responsibility. Most radio people believe that it's not their jobs to be friends with the players or to go into the locker room or to sit there and ask questions. And, I mean, you're not going to see a lot of those guys that are on talk radio around America, sports radio. You're not going to see them in there. You're not going to see talk show hosts that do talk radio flying on Air Force One with the president. But, boy, they will sit there and tell you what they think. So, I mean, to be honest with you, I think I go a step further than the average radio host does. But I'm not trying to be friends with people. I'm trying to ask the questions that need to get answered. That's why I don't think it's an accident that when you see me at a press conference, all of a sudden you hear the things on the front page of ESPN about the Titans general manager doesn't foresee the Titans trading A.J. Brown. Why? Because instead of trying to be buddies with the guy, I asked him directly, so are you going to trade A.J.? The Ryan Tannehill, mentor Malik Willis. It wasn't that I asked Tannehill if he was planning to mentor Malik Willis. It was the fact that I asked a very direct question that clearly made him uncomfortable. And in his word salad of trying to get out what he was trying to say, he tripped over his own feet. But that's not my fault. I mean, again, this is the thing I'll say. I do not care. Like, if you're going to sit there and tell me, like, I don't like your questions, I don't like it, that's only going to make me want to ask more. And what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to do what Paul Kaharski does, which is where it's, like, incredibly combative with the person he's talking to. Like Nick Westbrook-Akina was asked about Tannehill's leadership by TD. And Westbrook-Akina gave an answer about, oh, yeah, he's a great leader. He's a this, he's a that, he's a whatever. And so then Kaharski was like, well, do you think it's good if he showed a picture of him on a boat? You know, something like that, right? Well, like, I'm not trying to be combative with these dudes. I'm also not trying to be friends with these dudes because that ain't my job. I'll tell you, everybody thinks it's easy. Everybody thinks it's easy to get on the radio and sit there and say, you know, all these things about people, or sit there and say, you know, this guy stinks or that guy stinks. And then everybody that plays sports or general manager, they think it's easy. I think it's hard because that means everybody has their own private feelings. They all sit there and tell their friends like, oh, this guy stinks. But they don't ever have to have everybody know what they said. I do. So you can do one of two things. You can either be nicer and kind of, you know, dole down what you really think, or you can keep it real. And I've decided to keep it real, but it's going to cost you some friends, and it's going to whatever, and it's going to, and I'm fine with that.
Get you a couple strikes.
What do you think strike 3 is?
I guess we're about to find out.
Oh, no. I'm worried about getting struck out by Taylor Lewan. I mean, seriously, that's strike 2. What is strike 3?
I don't think there is a strike 3.
Do they take questions on their podcast? I mean, I will say this. I know it's a very popular podcast.
Yeah, it is.
I don't listen to it. Like, it's not my kind of thing. It's like too much bro talk.
But that's their thing. That's their audience.
No. I mean, it's a popular podcast. Yeah. I'm not knocking the podcast. I'm just saying I don't listen to it. So when I actually went to find the audio, because I saw the video, when I went to go find the audio today and I was like scrolling through the podcast, there's a lot of things they talk about that I do not care about. But I know that a lot of people do.
Yeah.
Do they take questions on their podcast?
I do not know.
If they do, somebody should ask them what strike 3 means. So here's the question for you all. Do you have a problem with my questions? Whether it's Tannehill, whether it's the Predators, whether it's Vrabel, whether it's Taylor Lewan, do you have a problem with them? Are you for them? Are you against them? 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. It's like Adam Vingan's fan survey poll.
Mm-hmm.
Fan survey poll. Do you like Jared's questions in press conferences? Yes or no? And I've got a declaration to make. And I'll do that on this theory next. Stillman and Company, it's ESPN 1025 The Game.
If you're on the road between downtown Nashville,
they're still in good shape to make the playoffs,
and I-840.
Players make it clear they don't want to be somewhere anymore.
There's a new way to hear all your favorite shows and sports programming on 1025 The Game.
I go back to that play and I shake my head. What I was worried about is that they were still just going to keep the goal.
It's 1063 FM.
Think about all the good Titans teams. This is very much so a run-first offense.
Now you have 2 choices to hear Nashville's best sports talk. Check out 1063 now and add it as a favorite.
Stop in to Batteries Plus Bulbs and save on Duracell Ultra Boat, RV, motorcycle, and lawn and garden batteries. See website for offer details and limitations.
Dive into summer savings at Electronic Express. Get huge deals on summer essentials from favorite brands like Traeger grills, Yeti, Samsung, GE, Whirlpool, and more. Electronic Express has huge savings in every department. Outdoor living, appliances, 4K TVs, smart home, furniture, and more. Plus, save up to 40% on all appliances with up to 36 months free financing. Shop in-store or online at electronicexpress.com and get free express delivery on most items. Electronic Express. We make summer happen.
If you missed the latest edition of Talking with TD.
Former Maryland, now Titans tight end, Chig Okonkwo, from college to the NFL, there's even more learning that you could acquire, would you say?
Oh, yeah. There's so much more learning, and I've figured that out in the short time that I've been here, that even now, like, I remember coming from high school, going to college, I remember saying, oh, I really don't know anything about football. And now I'm saying the same thing. Like, oh, I really don't know anything about football, really, because the NFL is just a completely different game. You know, it's all these different rules, these new rules. You know, different body types, a lot stronger guys. There's different techniques you got to use now, and just different schemes and all these different things. So there's definitely a huge learning curve that, you know, I'm excited for. I'm excited for the challenge to learn it all.
Search Talking with TD today on your favorite podcast platform. The newest edition drops every Wednesday at thegamenashville.com and the Game Nashville app.
Prescription products require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if a prescription is appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for full details and important safety information. Subscription required. Refund available for 60 days after purchase.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same but is 90% cheaper? And you can get it online? Just go to 4hims.com/joy. You'll get a free medical consultation, discreet shipping if prescribed, a 100% online process, and trusted generic alternatives to the biggest brands at 90% off. That's right, get generic for Viagra, the same active ingredient as brand name Viagra, but 90% cheaper. It's the same medication you get from your doctor, but with zero copay, no expensive appointments, and no awkward face-to-face conversations. Results are guaranteed or your money back. To start your free online visit, you need to go to this exclusive address, 4hims.com/joy. That's 4hims.com/joy for your free online visit. FORHIMS.com/JOY.
It's on. It's happening. Remember, you can watch us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Twitter.
Get out of the way. I'm watching the game.
Presented by the law offices of Amanda Gentry. You're listening to Stillman and Company.
Presented by TriStar Moving.
On ESPN 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app.
At the end of the day, what are we trying to do in the media? We're trying to get clicks. Hey, come do this. Come watch this. Hey, this guy said this about Tannehill not being good enough, so let's get Aaron Rodgers. That whole type of thing. Huh?
Yeah.
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 People have mentioned that. Not going to happen.
He bought land.
Yeah.
2 acres.
Raw land.
Raw land.
We learned
Raw
from this
land.
guy, the home plate face over there. He told us it was raw land in Nashville.
True.
Yeah.
That's
So,
it's
you know,
a
you never
fun,
know.
beautiful place to live. It's outstanding. But I think when it comes to Tannehill, guys love, respect, and definitely have Tannehill's back all the way through.
There you go. That was Taylor Lewan on the Pat McAfee Show. Who's he talking about?
Probably you.
Okay. You know, people are saying that this guy, that Tannehill's not good enough. We should go get this guy. The Aaron Rodgers, it's not going to happen. Who's he talking about? By the way, that's not what Adam Schefter reported. I'm just saying for everybody out there. So, again, Taylor Lewan went on Bussin' with the Boys, his podcast, which he's entitled to do. I mean, I go on my show, talk about what he says. He can go on his show and talk about what I say. And he doesn't like my questions. We played the questions. You said that they were fair.
Yeah, I don't see anything wrong with them.
Ian, you said they were fair.
For the most part, yeah, I think so.
I had a former Titans player text me and say, all fair questions. I have a declaration I want to make, and then we'll get to your phones.
Okay.
Do you know what this is going to be?
I'm not quite sure.
Ian, do you have an idea what this is going to be?
Not exactly.
Okay. I want everybody over at the Titans to hear this. I want everybody over at the Predators to hear this. I want everybody over at Nashville SC, if I go to a Nashville SC press conference. Vanderbilt, if I go to a Vanderbilt press conference.
You'll be welcomed with
The
open arms.
Vols, if they go to a press conference. I'm not going to change. So this idea of like, hey, let's sit here and talk about how let's name call and let's talk about how his questions are bad and let's put out a video about how his questions are bad and let's pretend like we never heard the guy even though we followed the guy on Twitter and all that kind of stuff, even though we've tweeted that guy remember during the playoffs at the Predators when Dave Portnoy basically said screw the Preds fans and Taylor Lewan said, and then we talked about it and then he tweeted us because he was mad about what we were saying. You know, so this idea that he didn't know who we are, I have a hard time believing, but that he can do whatever he wants. But for everybody out there, I don't plan to change. I plan to ask the same hard questions. I plan to ask them as directly as I possibly can. I learned my lesson on the Brady front. You know, there are moments where I, in the middle of something happening, have kind of realized a way to do things. It's like experience. I'm sure driving a car. You remember the first time you realized, oh, now I need to make sure that I got to do this when I change lanes or whatever. When I was at the Tampa Bay practices and I asked Tom Brady about the HBO shop video and whether or not Ryan Tannehill was the MFer, I padded the question because we all know I love Brady. I padded the question.
You got nervous a little bit, didn't you?
maybe not nervous, but I want Tom to like me. I don't care about Taylor.
A little
Lewan
stage fright.
I don't care about Tannehill and Taylor Lewan, but he's Tom Brady. So I patted the question.
Brady would respect it,
and I let Brady off the hook. And Brady started answering exactly what I didn't want to. Oh, Ryan's great. He's a great leader. He's a great this. He's a great that. He's a great. But my real question is, was Tannehill the MF?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sitting there as Brady's talking, and I'm like, I have either got to jump as soon as he's done talking and just pin him down on this, or I lost my one chance to do this with Tom Brady. So I got it. I said, but he's not the MFer, right? And remember, Brady was all like, did you say MFer out here? Like Brady was feeling it or whatever. And then Brady, no, he's.
It was just fodder.
Next day, I kid you not, Skip and Shannon. Tom Brady says Ryan Tannehill wasn't that MFer. Shannon, do you agree? It's like if I had I could have let Brady off the hook, or I couldn't have. And I learned right there, you have to be direct.
And that's not easy to do.
No. You don't want the people in front of you to hate you.
No, it's not an easy thing to do. Is to ask a very direct question, a very difficult question, but that doesn't mean that you can't ask them. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't ask them. You should ask the hard questions because everyone else is asking themselves those hard questions. We just have the privilege of being able to ask the people in power or the powers that be about those questions.
Which is the job, but at the same time, in 2018, we signed a new contract with the Predators, the radio station did. And so we're at the game, and they're introducing, please welcome from 102.5, your morning show, whatever, the midday show, whatever. And Jared the GM, boo! And, I think we all know that wasn't about Floyd.
No.
So I'm sitting there with my hand in the air on the Jumbotron, and everybody's booing. And I'm like, oh, my God. And I'm like, waving. So then we go back to the suite that we were in, and our general manager at the time, Jan Hampton, says to me, she's like, you like that, though, right? And I'm like, no.
Who likes that?
I'm like, do I want my own city of the fans in my own city booing me? No. I'd rather them all be Jared, Jared, Jared. I much rather prefer that. But I understand why, and I'm not upset with why, and I get it. And just like these questions, I'm not going to change, but I get it. But no, I don't like it. I mean, I'd like everybody to like me.
It's not fun when people don't like you.
But I understand why they don't, and my options are either acquiesce so that people can like me, or I can keep it real. And when I see the people who are acquiescing to others, and I see their performance on the scoreboard, and I see my performance on the scoreboard, I would like to think that I'm doing a pretty good job. So let's go to the phone, 615-737-1025 as promised, which are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com.
Larry texts in and says, I can definitely see how Taylor thought Jared's question was wrong. You never want to ask a player a question that might make himself look bad or that could lead to an answer where he gives a negative response to another player on the team. In this case, it's almost like pushing the answer or leaving the answer to be something negative that will stir up something, and then on the team is trying to build also. I can't really follow this. If Jared has to have a talk about the question as much as he is on the show so far, it must be bothering him and he must have some doubt about the question.
Talking about me?
Yeah.
Do you think I have doubt about the question?
No.
I mean, what are we doing here?
But basically, Larry is saying it's wrong to ask a player a question that could lead to a negative answer about another player on the team.
No, it is not.
But to that, I say that's the player's job to not say something bad about another player on the team.
Let me ask you a question.
That's not my job or your job or anyone else's job.
Let's make it serious because sports is not serious. I mean, it's serious to me, but it's not. Let's say, I don't know, a police press conference. Are you supposed to not ask questions that might make the police officers nervous to answer the question? No, you're supposed to ask the question to get to the truth. That's why you ask the questions. That's what they're there for. I mean, I'll say this, honestly. The reason that I'm talking about it so much is because I wanted to talk about it on the show. Not because I had doubt about the question.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
you should have doubt about the question.
I don't have doubt about the question.
It's a fair question.
I mean, I will say this. I asked the question. You want to talk about an uncomfortable question. And we've played it a bunch, like right when the Predators got eliminated. But they hired John Hines. And David Poyle sat down with us, and he, at that press conference, just raved about everything that New Jersey said about John Hines. And I'm sitting there looking at everybody as Poyle's just, gushing poetically about what Ray Shero and Tom Fitzgerald said about the brass in New Jersey said about John Hines. And I'm looking at everybody like, wait a minute. They just fired him. Like, that doesn't make any sense.
If they love him so much, why'd they fire him?
And I said so I said to Poyle, you've heard the question. I mean, we played it.
Yeah.
I said to Poyle, I was like, if they liked him so much, why did they fire him? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Is it not common sense to sit there and say, hey, I'm thinking about hiring your ex-coach to be my coach. Why'd you fire him? Usually that comes up. And he was like, I can't really say why they fired him, but their loss is our gain. And I cannot tell you how many freaking bobos got on me about how could you ask that question at John Hines' press conference. I'm like, it's not his high school graduation. It's not like it was his bar mitzvah. And I was like, are you sure you're now a man? Are you sure? No.
Mazel.
It was not like it's a press conference.
And just because the question is a hard one to answer, or just because it's a difficult question, doesn't mean it's a wrong question or doesn't mean it's a bad question. It just means it's a little uncomfortable, and that's okay. That's part of the job.
We'll get to more of your phones on this. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. Let me tell all the fine folks out there that be sure to tune in tomorrow at 5 o'clock for a special station announcement. I'm not even sure I know what that is.
I do. I'm excited about it.
I think I have an idea. Oh, yeah, okay.
It's fun.
I know
yeah, it's a very fun announcement.
Stillman and Company at ESPN 102.5 The Game.
If you're on the road between downtown Nashville,
They're still in good shape to make the playoffs.
and I-840,
Players make it clear they don't want to be somewhere anymore.
there's a new way to hear all your favorite shows and sports programming on 102.5 The Game.
I go back to that play and I shake my head. What I was worried about is that they were still just going to keep the goal.
It's 106.3 FM.
Think about all the good Titans teams. This is very much so a run-first offense.
Now you have two choices to hear Nashville's best sports talk. Check out 106.3 now and add it as a favorite.
This is Chef John from Kitchen Notes at the Omni Nashville. Invite you to come join us for breakfast and lunch. We are offering some exciting new menu items. For breakfast, we have a smoked prime rib hash. Comes with a sunny side up egg, hominy, caramelized onions. It's a great start to your day. We are featuring a sourdough pancake made with a sourdough bread starter. It's a fun spin on the classic buttermilk pancake. As always, Kitchen Notes is serving biscuits all day. Come join us and create a memorable experience here at the Omni Hotel. Food is all about memories for us. We'd like you to start a new memory here at Kitchen Notes in the Omni Hotel.
Breakfast at Kitchen Notes in the Omni Nashville Hotel.
Hey, it's Mike from Newton Nissan South. Have you ever seen a commercial for something that they build up to be amazing, only to be completely disappointed? You have these high expectations, and then boom, all the wind taken from your sails. The product isn't what you expected, and you end up feeling let down and maybe even lied to. Sound familiar? So many car dealers promise more than they can deliver, and you end up with extra fees, and your payments end up higher than you expected. You don't get that when you shop at Newton. The price you see on the site is the price you pay at the store. You can even work your deal online with Newton FastPass. We want all our customers to have a VIP buying experience. You don't have to take our word for it. Hundreds of our customers leave reviews online each month talking about our honest and transparent buying experience. The proof is in the pudding. Come see for yourself. Shop and buy online with Newton FastPass at newtonnissansouth.com. See website for details, Pudding Pop, Bomb Pop, kingofpop.org.net. .com.edu.
Upgrade your diamond studs this summer with no money down and 0 interest for 5 years. Yes, you can do it now at Genesis Diamonds. It's our best financing of the year. Not just on diamond studs, but rings, bracelets, bands, colored gemstone jewelry. Buy now, pay nothing down, and spread your payments over 5 years with 0 interest. So those 2-carat studs, just $85 a month. One-of-a-kind designer jewelry also included in this spectacular offer. Only available until June 18th. And only at Genesis Diamonds. Green Hills and Cool Springs. On approved credit.
Introducing the first Nashville location of Mayweather Boxing and Fitness in Midtown. Perfect for all fitness levels. Join a community that will help every person unleash their inner champ with fun, effective, and empowering group boxing circuit workouts. Become a founding member today. Stop by the brand new studio in Midtown at 2041 Broadway, Suite C, or call 629-206-9092 to join the family exclusive. Pre-opening rates now available. Mayweather Boxing and Fitness, the gold standard in boxing fitness.
You want 8 of the flutes and onyx.
Shira's hand-blown glassware blows right off her store's
Check
shelves.
the back for more indigo bowls.
She needs an inventory manager to help keep her stock on lock.
These are 100% borosilicate. Those aren't. Hey, can someone check the temp on the kiln?
Indeed can help her hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. We instantly connect you with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. Earn up to $500 in sponsored job credits by conducting interviews on Indeed. Visit Indeed.com/credit. Terms and conditions apply.
Robbie and Rex Road here on ESPN.
Welcome into the DDC.
Stillman Company is delivered.
There's a new way to hear 102.5 The Game. Nashville's best sports talk on 106.3 FM. From downtown Nashville to Spring Hill on I-65 and to Murfreesboro on I-24. You now have 2 choices to hear our great sports programming.
Get the extra point, no problem.
And the Nashville Predators. Scores! Check out 106.3 now and save it as a preset.
Hey Nashville, this is Laura Rutledge from the SEC Network, and you're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
He was over to my left a little bit, and you can kind of, I don't know if you guys heard the whole interview, but he was asking some dumbass questions. I don't know him. Like, I know to play villain, so like for me, it's fun to play like the villain to villain, which I guess would be a hero. You know what I'm saying? But it's not necessarily trying to be the hero.
Yeah.
This Slappy to my left asked me some dumbass question. I answer it, and I go, I see what you're trying to do there, bub.
Can you say what the question was?
I don't remember it. I think it had to do with Tannehill. He was like, do you, like, no, because that wasn't him. He asked me a dumb question. I was like, I see what you're trying to do there.
I hated that question so much I can't even remember what it was. But I'm going to my podcast to be upset about it. So apparently...
And also, another subset of that is whenever you were asking him the question, I felt like it was a pretty playful interaction. He was like, that's strike 2 for you. Everyone's laughing, kind of lighthearted. And then he turns around on the podcast and is like, that's strike 2, buddy. Like, you're a tough guy now.
You got that vibe?
I got that vibe.
I don't know if I got that vibe either.
It felt very playful to me at the press conference, in person.
Whatever. I mean,
whatever.
This is my theory on shows, right? Like, I got a show, so I can comment whatever I want on the show about, his play, what he tweets, what he says, what he does, whatever. He's got a show. He can talk about whatever. So this is my take on him being upset about what I said, and my response is to everybody out there that I just not deterred by it. Apparently, he commented on Twitch. I do not see any of these comments. So the Twitch, the YouTube, the Twitter, I don't do that stuff. Like, I'm hosting. Now, I know we're all on it, and thanks to our friends at the law offices of Amanda Gentry.
I can see the comments, and I don't think he commented on our Twitch stream. I think he commented something on Twitch. So I don't know if he's going live on Twitch right now.
So he said something about what we said.
I think so. Yeah, because he didn't comment on the Twitch stream because I don't see it in our stream comments.
How do we know that he said something on Twitch about us?
A texter texted in.
Okay.
So I'm taking their word for it.
I have no idea. Honestly, I can probably assume what it is, and I don't really care. The one thing I would say is it is pretty funny to sit there and be like, I don't know who this guy is. When he followed me on Twitter, he tweeted us the last time we talked about him, and now 30 minutes into discussing, 20 minutes or whatever it was, into discussing it, he's already responded to it. Has a hard way of me from thinking that he doesn't know who we are. But, again, that's his choice.
That is his prerogative.
What do we have in the phone lines?
That is fine. One texter texted in and said, I keep asking the hard stuff nobody else wants to ask. Somebody needs to have the stones to get answers.
You know what I have noticed? That when I am at a press conference where it's a little, contentious in the air, there are certain people in the Nashville media who, when I'm there, ask tougher questions, and I think it is sometimes because they are afraid that I am going to rip their rear end if they don't ask harder questions.
Is it really, or do you just feel that?
No, I think it's 2 people in particular.
Joe.
And?
I don't know.
Adam Vingan. I think both of those guys, because, I'm not going to chide. Corey Curtis and I are boys. But, I mean, Corey's not going to get worked out. Corey doesn't care what I think. When we went to the Titans press conference after Tannehill missed the start of voluntary workouts, and I said on the air, I guess I'm going to have to go to the press conference tomorrow because nobody can. Joe was like, to Vrabel. What do you think about the players that aren't here for voluntary workouts like Tannehill?
Maybe Joe just wanted to know that for himself.
Okay. And then Vrabel answered the question. And then Joe, to his credit, Joe's credit, asked the question about Tannehill specifically to Vrabel so that he couldn't get out of it. And I'm like, Joe knew I was there. Joe was looking at me. Joe was
Did
seeing
Joe just
it.
text you?
I just, no.
Oh.
I don't know. Chase tweeted at me. But Joe, again, so Joe did that. Then when I was at the Poyle and Hines press conference, I go to these press conferences with a pretty good idea what I want to ask. Yeah. And I'm sitting there, and I've got all these ideas in my head what I'm going to ask. And Joe and Vingan are asking them, like, directly. And in the case of Vingan, actually asking some of the questions better than I asked. And, I mean, I almost turned around and was like, way to go, Adam.
I cannot go as far as to say it's because you were there. I don't want to give you the satisfaction.
I'm just saying. I mean, everybody, see, this is another thing. I think some people are so afraid to congratulate me or to acknowledge something that they know that I take a lot of pride in. Because it, like, hurts their heart to have to say, like, God, I just don't want Jared to enjoy me acknowledging XYZ. I think this is part of it too. Like, I don't even know this guy. It's like, I don't want to acknowledge it because I want to act like I'm cool. Kind of like.
Which is just silly.
Kind of like the person whose show isn't as good as our show by any metric that's out there, who sat there and called us competition and laughed about it. And now I'd say go check the scoreboard. What else we got?
One texter texts in and says, it wasn't a bad question, but I believe Taylor Lewan thinks the point of the question was for him to say something negative about the guys not in attendance, which in turn would cause issues in the locker room.
What's the rule about asking questions?
You can't control how they answer it. You can't not ask the question just because you don't know how they're going to respond.
Now, here's the crazy part about this. I thought both of Lewan's answers were good. So let's do the first one. John Glennon asked Lewan why it was important for him to be at OTAs, and then later in the press conference or in the media session, I followed up with, if it's important for him, is it important for the other guys who aren't there? Listen to Lewan's answer for both of them, and I'm going to tell you this. This is a good answer from Taylor Lewan. Please play it.
It's because it's more than just being about, like, it's not like about me. This situation, me being here at OTA is like, I'm trying to get better, work on my physical strength and my conditioning. But at the same time, like 11 guys are in the field at one point, and whether it's helping Nick out with something or Dylan trying to find a role in this team, or it's stepping into a role of leadership that I've kind of shied away from a long time, being able to help those guys with the knowledge that I have, playing as long as I have at the level I have. So I think it's important for me to be here.
You thought it was important for you to be here.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's important for the guys that are leaders on this team that aren't here to be here?
No. I think it's important for those guys to do what they think is best for them to get ready for the season. I'm just doing what I think is best for me and to help this offensive line in my mind. Guys like Jeff and stuff like that. Jeff, you see the way he plays. You see if you guys were at practice during camp, whether it's individual or teams, if you're here the whole time, you're going to see him on everybody. His leadership, when he gets here, he's going to step right back in where he was. Derek is going to step right back in where he was. For me, as much turnover as we had and stuff like that, it was important for me to get here for myself, to get on a better foot than I did last year, and to help those guys. But it's nothing against them. Everyone's allowed to do whatever they want to do. But I like that. That was a nice little, almost way to screw me over right there. Radio.
That was a great answer.
And his answer about Dylan Radins, right tackle, guard,
I think he's a football
player. Good answer.
Great answer.
Good job, Taylor.
This is like Family
You can
Feud.
tell you've been groomed by the right people to answer the tough questions the right way.
Oh, it was a great answer.
It was.
It was a great answer. But then the whole, like, making it about the question, then it turns into a whole nother thing where now it's like he had to respond to my question, so now I have to respond to his response, and apparently we don't even know, but he's responded to our response, so it's like...
And I don't think anyone would deny that's a tough question to ask. Like, that's a tough question to answer, both the Dylan Radins and the answering for the players who weren't there. Those are both really difficult questions to answer, and he did it so genuinely, I felt like. And then it ruined it, him bringing up the questions. I think that ruined what he said, because if he didn't bring it up on the podcast, I probably wouldn't have thought anything about it.
I was out of the country, and I got and I was like, what? And I watched it. I was like, that's what they're mad about?
Of all things.
That's what we're mad about
of
today?
Of all things that you have done or said.
Now, I will say this, and I go back to this. The ratings thing about that's because I cannot say on the air what positions he's playing. So I have to ask other people about what positions he's playing to then be able to talk about the positions he's playing. I very clearly want to talk about the position or positions. It can be one or the other. Positions with the S with the little thing around it.
Parentheses.
I really want to talk about that, but I can't because those are the rules. They're not my rules. They're their rules. And so I want to talk about it, but I can't. So what you have to do is you have to ask questions about it. So then you can say, well, Taylor Lewan says that Dylan Radins is looking good at these positions. And then go from there. What else we got?
Chip from Mount Juliet texts in and says, Lewan is and has always been the most immature player on the Titans for many years. He's no role model. I still remember when he was stripped of his captain role.
Yeah, that's a bad look. But I'll say this about Lewan. I really don't have a problem with him. You know, as far as like the football player and I don't like it. I don't like the podcast stuff. Not that he can't do it, but I look at offensive linemen like I want my offensive lineman to be fat. I want my offensive lineman to not want to take showers. I want my offensive lineman to want to wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning, go lift them weights and eat that food. And I want my offensive lineman to stay in the background. Like Jack Conklin. That's what the only criticism I had of Jack Conklin his entire career was when he trimmed down and everybody was like, boy, Jack Conklin looks like he's in great shape. And I was like, nope, I want my linemen fat. I want them fat. You know, I want big offensive linemen.
Offensive linemen like I like my checks. Fat.
We don't ever look at Alabama or Georgia's offensive line and say, you know what?
You know who's looking fit?
They really look 225. No, we're like, man, look at those guys. They're 375 pounds. That's how I like it. So other than that, like I don't have a problem. But again, I would prefer my offensive lineman be like Jack Conklin. You know, like just kind of just be in the background. The star players, the position players, those are the guys that are supposed to. Wide
I'm not going to
receivers
tell
and the running
Taylor Lewan
backs
shut up
and
and dribble. He can do whatever he wants on his own time.
Derek did.
Well, that is not my job.
Derek
and I do not have the same
Ian, were you around when that
authority
happened?
in that department.
The Backstreet Boys comment?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Derek laced him. And then he did a radio on the pregame show. This was when they were the worst team in the league.
Was that Derek's first strike? I wonder how many strikes
I
Derek
know.
has.
How many strikes Derek gets. So,
let's check the books.
So Derek laced him. I mean, just freaking annihilated him. And everybody heard it. And then he went on the pregame show. And this is when they were the worst team in the league. And he goes on the pregame show. And he's talking about the former players don't understand or something like that. Now, I heard it. And I was like, oh, my God. And then a couple years later, he went on with Derek. And he told Derek that when he heard what Derek said, he was really hurt. And that he was mad at him. But the more he thought about what he said, the more Derek was right. I was like,
interesting. That's really sweet.
Like, this is going to sound crazy.
Growing up.
For as much as I have bitched about Taylor Lewan over the years, mainly like, the Oakland game where he got that 15-yard penalty that cost him the game.
Arizona game.
When he picked up the freaking referee, against Green Bay, it drove me nuts. But I think, like, because the market for left tackles has skyrocketed, his $14 million is really not.
It's chump change
very average.
In comparison.
Yeah, I mean, it's very average to the top of the market. And so now I'm kind of cool with it. Like, I think he's an average left tackle, and I think he's making average money, and so I'm fine with it. But if he was making top of the market money, then I wouldn't like that very much. But other than that, I mean, I'm fine with it. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. We'll get back to your phones on this. Plus, there is one guy who he's the only person who has some sort of a national media platform, is incredibly pro-Titans, and I cannot listen to it. And I actually like the guy. We'll get to that coming up next. Stillman & Company, it's ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Every Wednesday at 5, join us for Jared versus Joe as they debate all of the big topics in sports, presented by Parman Tractor and Equipment and Mayweather Boxing and Fitness on ESPN 102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
From the Fox 17 News Code Red Weather Center.
I'm Fox 17 News Code Red meteorologist Dan Guthrie. A lot of sunshine for us this afternoon and warm. High temperatures heading to the lower 90s. A little humid today, but you'll notice that more tomorrow.
This weather report brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical.
Call the Happy Face Truck today.
The Hot Rod Power Tour, presented by eBay Motors and driven by Continental Tire, is back in Nashville, June 14th. Register now at hotrodpowertour.us.
Calling a criminal defense lawyer or a divorce lawyer, you may think it's the worst day of your life. It doesn't have to be. If you have quality, competent representation who can guide you through a complex system, we can do that for you. Despite if you've been arrested for a DUI or a robbery charge, whether or not you're going through a divorce or a post-divorce, or demanding your fundamental constitutional right to parent your children. 615-604-6263. AmandaJGentry.com.
For the love of the climb. For the love of the fall. For the love of knowing your kids' laughter is the sweetest music there is. For the love of Tennessee. Travel safe. Brought to you by the Tennessee Department of Tourist Development, the Tennessee Association of Broadcasters, and this station.
Robbie Stanley.
To avoid non-contact injuries and not repeat last year.
Joe Rexroad.
Just wait until next year's national TV schedule comes out.
Robbie and Rexroad. Mornings from 6 to 10 on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app. You're listening to Stillman and Company.
Sounds like this has been a game-changing day for all of us.
Presented by TriStar Movie.
on ESPN
102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app.
Stillman and Company here on the program. I do want to get to this, and then we'll get back to your phones. 615-737-1025. So, the Titans don't very often get talked about in the national media, which has been well established over the years, specifically something that we've talked about on this show all the time. Whether, Jared and the GM talked about it all the time, we talk about it all the time, they don't really talk much about the Titans. But there's one guy who talks about the Titans, who played for the Titans, who went to the #1 college in America.
Easy.
And every time he talks about the Titans, it's so ridiculous. And it's Harry Douglas. And I like Harry Douglas.
I love Harry.
But I don't think we can ever listen to anything he says about the Titans. This was him this morning on Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max, the ESPN Radio Morning Show. They were talking about over-under win totals. Here was Harry Douglas talking about the Titans.
I'm going to go over. I think they're going to win 10 or 11 games this year. Derrick Henry's coming back healthy. If you've seen social media, you've seen his training videos. Workout warrior. The guy can play the game of football at a very, very high level. He's physical. He's coming back on a vengeance. A.J. Brown, that's going to be curious. I'm going to be curious. I want to know what they're going to do offensively. They have Robert Woods. They drafted Traylon Burks. They brought in also Hooper, tight end position. I thought that was huge. But we know what that front seven and that defensive line is going to be like for Tennessee, so they're going to keep them in a lot of games.
I love when Harry Douglas validates my intuition that I think it's going to be over as well, man. Look, they got 12 games last year without Derrick Henry.
Okay, so you hear Jay Williams. Yes, I believe that. I can't take Harry Douglas seriously. Last year,
now hearing the audio, what was so bad about what he said?
There was nothing specific about the Titans that was, anybody in Zimbabwe that knows anything about football could have said everything about, hey, did you see the Instagram videos of Derrick Henry running? Hey, how are they going to replace A.J. Brown? We'll see.
Is he wrong?
But there's no detail to it. This is everything that he says. This is the least egregious of all the things that he said. But like last year, he's like, I think the Titans are going to the Super Bowl. And then Julio Jones is the best wide receiver in the NFL. And every time I hear him talk about the Titans, there's never any detail or any strong argument, anything that would make me think that you know more than, say, I know about the Chargers. Mm-hmm. I know they have Justin Herbert. I know they traded for Khalil Mack. I know that their coach is a doofus. Other than that, I don't know much about the Chargers. But yet everything he says is just so pro-Titans. And then he says it on ESPN. And so it's like Harry Douglas today on First Take said that the Titans are going to the Super Bowl. And every time I'm like, man, what a bow. And I'm trying to figure out, like,
what
why.
more detail do you want? Because I don't think that anything he said was necessarily wrong. Was it incredibly in-depth? Was it a full-on report? No. But what else is he going to say that you would think is adequate?
So what I don't like is I don't like people in the national media. And I'm assuming that he is doing this, maybe not fairly, but a lot of people do this, where they talk about things that they have no idea about. And I, as somebody who hosts a show like on Mad Dog Radio, I really, really try to avoid that. Like, I really try to avoid, just assuming that, hey, they say this about the Memphis Grizzlies, or, oh, they say this about the Celtics, or they say this about the Lakers, that I got to, try to get in there as much as possible, because I hate when people talk about the Titans when they don't know anything. Who's playing right tackle for the Titans? Who's playing left guard for the Titans? We don't know. They don't know. Nobody knows. It's like the Titans aren't even the favorites the Titans aren't even the favorites in the division. Nobody, if Harry Douglas were to sit there, it's like the Colts, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right now, today, I would pick the Colts over the Titans in the AFC South. Do you know why?
Matt Ryan?
Nope.
Why?
Ian, do you know why I'd pick the Colts over the Titans in the division?
Not exactly.
Because you have to go on the road to Cincinnati, or no, you have to play Cincinnati at home, and you have to go on the road to Buffalo and Green Bay. And they, at the same time, get the Steelers, the Vikings, and the Patriots. And I think that those three games, I mean, you're talking about Rodgers, Burrow, and Josh Allen. On the other hand, Kenny Pickett, Kirk Cousins, and Mac Jones. And
Does Indy not have Tampa Bay this year?
They do not.
Okay.
That was last year. You lucked into that last year where you got New Orleans because they won the division and they got Tom Brady. So this year you get the opposite. And so those things matter to me. Like that, those are things I think about. Like that, you actually have to do some research other than, did you see Derrick Henry's Instagram video?
I hear you.
And so I think it's just like Harry Douglas as a whole. Everything he says about the Titans is just over the top. And this was the least over the top thing he said. But, I mean, the Julio best receiver in the NFL? Really? Really? We mocked that when it happened.
Yeah, I mean, that one was very egregiously, blatantly just not true.
And I like the Titans.
Not true.
I like the Titans being talked about nationally. And I like hearing good things about the Titans. Mm-hmm. But I like hearing honest things about the Titans the most. And every time, like, it feels like he's, like, angling for a job with the Titans or something. And I'm trying to figure out what it is. Like, why pro Titans all the time?
Does he have a Titan source? I mean, he did play for the Titans.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
I don't know. I mean, I got the pro Julio because he played with Julio, and so they were boys, and like, okay.
Yeah, Julio was his guy.
But that makes you a bobo, in my opinion. Like, that makes you a bobo when you say something so ridiculous like that. If you're somebody who sits there and says, hey, in Bill Belichick we trust, nobody ever questioned Bill, you are a Belichick bobo. I'm not. And I love Belichick. Belichick's a great coach. That's all I got on that. Back to your phone. 615-737-1025. What do we have?
One texter texts in and says, this is about Taylor Lewan. Says, I completely understand how you pissed off Taylor. However, I'm glad to see someone asking these folks, these coaches, these GMs, and players the tough questions. Thank you. And for the record, Lewan is a fake tough guy. It fits his profile to bully you. If you were Pat McAfee, he wouldn't say anything. He's a fake tough guy beating up on Ohio State fans and can't block his own damn spot. All
so,
right, then.
I mean, that
was Kevin.
Here's my thing.
Kevin's got some deep-rooted frustration with Taylor Lewan, it seems.
Here's the thing about the Lewan thing. I do think that the whole strike two thing is him trying to, like, exert some sort of power that he doesn't have over him.
I really just thought it was some sort of joke. Like, that was the second time you asked me a question that I could have walked into.
I would say that when it happened in live time, I kind of rolled my eyes. Like, okay. But then when he, like, talked about it on his podcast 3 days later, like, seriously?
Yeah, like, in the moment, I didn't think anything of it.
That's like one of those things when it happens and somebody tells you, and trust me, I say a lot of things. So there's a lot of times people get mad at me. And I'm like, that's what you're mad at? You know, sometimes people get mad about things I do, and I'm like, no, I understand why you're mad at me.
I hear you.
Other times I'm like, that's what you're mad at? What else we got?
Another texter texts in and says, Taylor should worry more about his consistent 15-yard penalties and less about the severity of your questions.
I thought he was good at cutting down the penalties this year. Now, the blocking, the availability, we'll see this upcoming season. But I I guess I didn't have that much of a problem with it. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. Vanderbilt fans do not like me very much, right?
No, they do not. I don't think they like me very much anymore either.
What'd you do?
Said that Tim Corbin displayed poor leadership by walking away from the press conference. Yeah, they were not happy about that one. I could say all day long, Vanderbilt football sucks, and I would hear crickets from Vanderbilt fans. I say one thing about Tim Corbin, and all of a sudden the Vandy boys are very anti-Caroline Fenton.
So I got a question to ask that I think is going to make all the people that have gotten mad at me in the past about things I have said happy, and is going to make a lot of other people mad. We'll get to that coming up next. FanDuel Sportsbook is my official sportsbook app. Go yard all May long with $5 Dinger Tuesdays on FanDuel Sportsbook. This season, all customers will get $5 for every home run hit by both teams when you place a $25 to hit a home run wager on a Tuesday MLB game. And the best part about Dinger Tuesdays is even if your bet loses, FanDuel will pay you $5 for every home run. I would not go with the Braves right now. They are not hitting the ball very well, and I'm getting frustrated because Memorial Day is my day of demarcation, where now I start looking at the standings, and so they need to hit some home runs today. So, go Ronald Acuna or something. So what are you waiting for? Pick your home run hitter and turn big swings into big wins. There's no better place to bet America's pastime than on FanDuel Sportsbook app, which is my official sportsbook app. Head on over or download the FanDuel Sportsbook app and sign up with the promo code JGM. That's promo code JGM. 21 and older and present in Tennessee. Bonus issue is non-withdrawable site credit that expires in 7 days. Max bonus $25. Restrictions apply. See full terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line. 1-800-889-9789.
You love the game.
Duchesne scores! Titans touchdown!
We live the game.
Because if he did come back, how long would he play?
Really good after the catch. He can get open.
We are.
Terang, it's a high fly ball.
The leading receiver.
Awesome game 7.
Checker flag in the air.
The game. Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And the Game Nashville app.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
The Gallatin Hotel is a vibrant and charming boutique hotel tucked into East Nashville and was voted the #1 boutique hotel in East Nashville by TripAdvisor. Not only is the Gallatin unique by design, but they also give away the majority of their profits to those who need it most and provides beds, food, and supplies to Nashville's underserved communities and those experiencing homelessness. Just one more reason to love your stay at the Gallatin. Visit thegallatinhotel.com to book your stay now. The Gallatin Hotel. It's good vibes only.
Houston Clinic Orthopedics wants to thank their patients for voting them the #1 orthopedic practice in the Nashville Scene Poll for 3 years in a row. Their physicians specialize in spine, joint replacement, knee, hip, upper extremity, and other orthopedic conditions. At Houston Clinic Orthopedics, they adhere to all CDC guidelines for the patient's and staff safety. To experience world-class orthopedic care and see a list of all physicians, visit their website at tn.houston.com and book your appointment online today.
Hey Nashville, it's Chase McKay, Program Director of ESPN 102.5 The Game, and there's a new way that you can hear Nashville's best sports talk. It's on 106.3 FM. From downtown Nashville to Spring Hill on I-65 and to Murfreesboro on I-24, you now have 2 choices to hear our great sports talk programming. And, of course, the Nashville Predators. Check out 106.3 now and save it as a preset.
Cutting the price of your wireless bill feels good. Really good. Actually, it feels great. You should try it out. So cut your bill by switching to Straight Talk Wireless, now offering our $45 Silver Unlimited plan with 5 gigabytes of hotspot and nationwide 5G on America's largest, most dependable networks. The $45 Silver Unlimited plan from Straight Talk. Straight Talk Wireless. No contract, no compromise.
A month equals 30 days. See terms and conditions at straighttalk.com. 5G capable device required. Actual availability, coverage, and speed may vary.
From the Hillside Medical Game Studios, WPRT-FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne, Nashville's exclusive home for the Nashville Predators.
ESPN
102.5 and 106.3.
Terang, it's a high fly ball. The leading receiver.
Awesome game 7. Checker flag in the air.
The Game.
A Cromwell media station.
where you have a voice.
We're one play away from an injury.
He knows this. He's a study of the game.
And we have strong opinions.
He's been awful. I don't think they were trying, and that's why I feel the way I feel.
This is Stillman and Company with Jared Stillman and Caroline Fenton. Presented by TriStar Moving on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app.
Stillman & Company is delivered by TriStar Moving, ESPN 102.5. The Game streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. Thanks to the law offices of Amanda Gentry, live from the Hillside Medical Game Studios. So for years on this program, we have been bombarded every year, it feels like this time, by like 7 people that are like, will you guys talk Vandy baseball? I mean, I can't, Ian, how many times have people sat there and been like, you guys don't talk Vandy baseball. Everyone should be talking Vandy baseball.
Oh, at least once a year.
I mean, it's like a once-a-year thing. And I think it is a testament to the fact that Vandy baseball has been very good and that the people who care about it care. But there's a difference between the people caring about it and good enough to talk on the radio that enough people care about to be able to get them to keep listening to the radio. I hate to break it to you, there's kind of a dichotomy there. And I'd like to think that I have a pretty good idea of what plays and what doesn't. It's why I get mad every time Joe would write a column about Lipscomb softball. No disrespect to Lipscomb softball, but it's like, Joe, give me a Marcus column. You know, that's what people want to talk about is Marcus. I want you to write about Marcus so then we can talk about Marcus. Because guess what we're going to talk about?
Marcus.
So, I say all of this because for years, we heard it from the Vanderbilt fans all the time. I also believe in being fair. Tennessee baseball's got the number 1 seed. I don't watch a ton of college baseball. I don't necessarily care that much. I'm going to tell you, I think they're probably going to win the championship.
I think that's fair.
That's not an incredibly bold statement, but every game they play, they score like 19 runs, and it honestly feels like they're so much better than everybody else, and all their pitchers throw 155 miles an hour.
Just one of them.
So they're going to win. So I think they're going to win the championship. But, trying to be fair here, if we're going to spend years talking about Vandy baseball and saying, does Vandy baseball matter enough to talk on the radio? And for years, it's essentially been the same, right? Does Vandy baseball matter enough to talk about on the radio? Jared votes no. Then a bunch of people call in, get mad, talk about why don't we talk about it. Then a bunch of people get mad at the people calling in, and they say they don't care about Vandy baseball. Does Tennessee baseball, where I do believe there are more Tennessee volunteer fans in Nashville than there are Vanderbilt fans, does Tennessee baseball move the needle so we should talk about Tennessee baseball on the radio in Nashville? Question mark.
It's difficult.
Just what do you think, yes or no?
In the postseason, yes.
Ian?
I think that's fair, postseason.
I don't think so.
Well, you also just said that you don't care about college baseball and you haven't watched a game.
No. I've watched a little bit. I don't watch all of them.
But you just said you don't care about it. So, of course, you're going to think that.
But you know me. And you know that I do not care about what the people are talking about. I didn't care about the NBA for years. Didn't care. Couldn't stand it. Didn't like all the gossip about, I know that we're in the middle of the season, but we know the Warriors are going to win the championship. Let's talk about how LeBron wants to play with AD and KD wants to play with Kyrie.
A lot of drama.
AD wants to. I didn't like any of that. I thought it was terrible.
It's a lot of drama.
Well, now I'm doing national radio on Sirius XM, so guess who's watching basketball? And I'm starting to enjoy it again. Me. So I always care about what the audience cares about. If talking Tennessee baseball moved the needle, then I would talk Tennessee baseball. I've about the Vols for, like a year now, which is I don't feel like as a whole, and that's including football and basketball, I don't feel like they matter that much in Nashville, Tennessee anymore. I mean, when I was a kid, they were the hottest thing in town. When Johnny Majors got fired, News Channel 5 had Hope Hines in the studio on Channel 5 and Mark Howard in Knoxville giving live reports from the press conference that they were then going to take live. Now, if I ran a local news station here, I don't even think I'd send my people to Knoxville. I think I would just take the tape that the Knoxville people get and just run the highlights here in the 2.5 minutes they get to do sports. I just don't think – I don't have a problem with Gentry Estes or Joe Rexrode, columnists going there and doing a column about, the quarterback or the football coach or things like that. But, I mean, to me, it certainly doesn't move the needle like the Titans do around here. It certainly doesn't move the needle like the Predators do around here, which is a change. But baseball? I mean, again, college baseball is very niche. College baseball, the only people who like college baseball are either people who are huge college baseball fans or if your school is really good, then you care because it's like something
I think is where a lot of Tennessee baseball fans are at, which is not a bad thing, but I don't think any Tennessee fans ever cared about baseball before last year.
No, but
that's fine, but they're good.
That's how it works.
And I think the difference here is, like, Tennessee baseball is not just really good. Like, they are dominant. They are an insanely talented team. Like, breaking all sorts of records type of team. And I think that's interesting, even if you're not a diehard Tennessee baseball fan. I think it's still relevant, especially in the postseason, whenever it's more of a national stage.
I don't think it's relevant to the average fan who listens to this show.
I don't think that we should do 4 hours on it.
Well, I mean, every segment is valuable to me. But I would say, again, I mean, this is the thing that this is not the newspaper where it's like, hey, let's put everything in the newspaper and so people turn around, okay, let's see what happened here. Let's read what happened here. Let's see what. I'm just saying, I think this. One, I think the personality of the Tennessee coach, that at least is a little interesting. Like, I could see having to watch a game because there's a chance that he could lose his temper and, like, hit an umpire with a bat. And if he hits an umpire with a bat, if he hits an umpire with a bat, that's 4 hours. Like, that right there is the Tennessee coach took a swing at an umpire with a baseball bat. Let's take your phones. It's like the time that Joe filled in for Floyd. And Joe was like, he was like, what are we going to talk about today? I was like, we're going to talk about the fact that Myles Garrett took Mason Rudolph's helmet off his head and hit him in the head with it. And Joe was like, for 4 hours. And I was like,
yep,
yes. Like, those kind of things, like, if in this Tennessee coach, he might do this. Like, it would not surprise me if things aren't going his way if all of a sudden he takes the Gatorade cooler out and smacks an umpire in the side of the head with it. Wouldn't surprise me. That is worth talking about. But again, like the actual baseball, like the talking about, and I'm a baseball fan, but the actual talking about Tennessee baseball, you think it moves the needle. You think people want to talk about, like, the draw that they got in the NCAA tournament.
Maybe not that far. I don't think people necessarily want to hear the X's and the O's.
So then what do you talk about?
The fact that they were a number 1 seed. Maybe you want to talk about the draw. I don't know. You want to talk about them hosting a super regional. I think more so in Omaha, people care about it. Like, I mean, when you're coming down to, are you seriously contending for a championship? If Tennessee, for example, crashes and burns in a regional and it's like the craziest upset ever that the Campbell Camels beat Knoxville in their own regional, like, yeah, I think that's noteworthy to talk about. But I don't think that I want to break down the X's and O's of a Tennessee game. I don't think people want to listen to me break down the X's and O's of Tennessee baseball game. But I do think that they have gained enough eyeballs and enough attention, at least from around here, to at least mention it.
Okay. So, again, this is not the newspaper. This is not, the sports update with Bob Johnson. All right, thank you, Jared. It was 2:23 to go in the game when Clay Thompson answered. I mean, it's not like a sports update, those things that they do. But I hear you. Again, if Vanderbilt was the number 1 team that was this good, would people in Nashville want to talk about it?
Vandy fans are already mad at me.
Because you say that people want to talk about Tennessee baseball and they think no one wants to talk about Tennessee baseball. That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
That doesn't surprise me whatsoever. But, again, I just go do it like this. Here's my thing with college baseball. It's kind of like college basketball pre-tournament. When you get into the tournament, now everybody's watching. But pre-tournament, the only people who care about college basketball are either college basketball fans or people who like college basketball or people who like the team, that plays whatever.
Yeah.
But that's it. Like, I'm not talking college basketball around here because it's like we can talk about Titans off season or college basketball. Titans off season every time. But then in the tournament, because everybody's watching and it's, Coach K or it's whatever, like people are watching and okay. Juwan Howard smacks a guy in the face. We're on it. Like that is what people want to talk about. It's like, do you know who Danny Almonte is?
No, I don't.
You know, there's almost nothing that could happen that could make us talk about the Little League World Series, right?
I don't know. I wouldn't go that far. Nothing?
So Danny Almonte in like 1999 or 2000 or 2001. Ian, do you remember this?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So he was like freaking Pedro Martinez of the college.
Just crushing it.
Little League World Series. I mean, like, struck out everybody. And then they found out he was like 17 or something
It's
ridiculous.
like that scene from Benchwarmers where he hands him over his birth certificate and it's just a picture of him and in crayon it says, I am 12.
Yeah, I mean, it literally, like, he was 17 or 18 or it was ridiculous.
So no wonder.
And it was like, of course he was striking out.
Of course you're going to talk
all
about
these
that,
11-year-olds.
though.
Like, that is
You talk about that.
scandalous. Manti Te'o's girlfriend. I did not know about Manti Te'o's girlfriend until I found out that Manti Te'o had a fake girlfriend and she died but didn't actually die.
Because she didn't exist.
And then I was like, wait a minute, what happened?
Yeah.
I didn't even know the first story about it, but then everybody's talking about Manti
we would
Te'o.
never talk about Notre Dame football.
No.
Unless Manti Te'o came up with a fake
No.
girlfriend.
And so that's how I feel about this, which is if you really want me to talk about college baseball, there has to be some juice to it because not enough people, big picture, actually care. That's my theory behind it. There's just not enough people that care about the college baseball itself, so you got to give me something else to it. Last year, the only thing I remember talking about college baseball last year was I remember when NC State got kicked out. And
the COVID thing.
And they
That
didn't
was
get
pretty
vaccinated,
wild.
and Vanderbilt did get vaccinated, and that was a freaking story.
That was
and that was
crazy.
A1. Like, that moves the needle. But again, like, should Johnson bat seventh, and should this guy pitch instead of that guy? That to me, Knoxville radio.
Well, then I'll clarify what I had to say. If there's a story that we feel like is something that we need to talk about, let's say, hypothetically, a Tennessee player was caught doing steroids in the dugout.
Oh, God, that's awesome.
We'll talk about that. But no, the X's and the O's of a Tennessee baseball game, I don't think we're going to talk about. I don't think we're going to talk about the X's and O's of any baseball game.
But I'd say this. If Tennessee was the number one seed in basketball, I mean, we'd be talking about the
Would we?
draw. Oh, yeah. If Vanderbilt, I have this firm belief that if Vanderbilt was actually good at sports, that people would care in Nashville.
Well, yeah, duh.
But
I mean, that sounds pretty obvious. If you're good at sports, people care.
I know, but like Vanderbilt, like the gym and the stadium stink. And it's like when Vandy's good, they don't even make a bigger effort to highlight that they're good, which they're not very often good. But it's like if they had the number 7 football team in the country and they were getting set to host Alabama.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it'd be the number one thing in town.
For sure.
Same with, if Tennessee was good at football, we would care more. I think people would care more, whatever. But I just don't think the Vols matter as much as they used to, and I certainly don't think that college baseball moves it around here as much as the college baseball team heads wanted to do. Let's get to your phones on this next, including a ridiculous statement made by one Joseph Rexroad today about baseball, college baseball, whatever it is. I got to get to this take. We'll do that next, and we'll do that. Stillman and Company right here at ESPN 102.5 The Game. Oh, let me tell you about Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. Those are my guys. Proud supporters of the Vols. They love them. There is no better time to upgrade your essential home systems than this month at Hiller. Until the end of next month, Hiller is offering 0 interest for 60 months on select new HVAC systems, 0 interest for 12 months on new tankless water heaters, 0 interest for 12 months on new whole home generators. If you know you need a new system for your home, do it this month. These financing offers are available for a limited time only to help you stay comfortable and cool all summer long and handle the payments later. Visit happyhiller.com for all the details. As always, happy you'll be or the service is free. That's Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. They take great care of my home. Proud supporters of the Predators, the Vols, and Vandy. Call the Happy Face Truck today.
Do you have that one person or thing that just makes you mad? Join us every Friday at noon on the DDC for You Just Made the List. Fueled by Parman Energy. Visit ParmanEnergy.com, your one-stop petroleum solution, and try Star Movie on the DDC on ESPN 102.5 The Game.
You just made the list.
Alex Scott was a 4-year-old cancer patient who wanted to help find a cure for kids' cancer with a lemonade stand. Join Firebird's Woodfire Grill for Lemonade Days, June 10th through 12th. Donate to Alex's Lemonade Stand Foundation.
If you snore, it may be a sign of a more serious, possibly life-threatening condition. Most people think of snoring as a nuisance, but it's a much more serious medical condition than you think. Snoring has been associated with chest pain, sleep apnea, high blood pressure, chronic pain, obesity, headaches, and sore throat. Take a listen to what some of our patients are saying about the revolutionary Vivo system.
Right after I started using it, I noticed the results really, especially with the snoring. My sleep apnea episodes are a fraction of what they were before. This product's phenomenal. It changed my life.
I am 100% happy that I did this, and I'm thankful every day that I have it.
If you're curious about our sleep devices, call now for a sleep consultation. Don't let your spouse have to sleep in the guest room, and don't risk the severe health complications of snoring and sleep apnea.
Dr. Kelly Rice is certified to provide the Vivo system to open the airway for a better night's sleep. Call 615-373-4488 or go to BrentwoodSleepApnea.com to see which therapy can work best for you.
Individual results may vary. Always seek the advice of your health provider with any questions regarding a medical condition.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter.com/radio.
Hey Nashville, it's Chase McKay, Program Director of ESPN 102.5 The Game, and there's a new way that you can hear Nashville's best sports talk. It's on 106.3 FM. From downtown Nashville to Spring Hill on I-65 and to Murfreesboro on I-24, you now have 2 choices to hear our great sports talk programming. And, of course, the Nashville Predators. Check out 106.3 now and save it as a preset.
We want to hear from you.
Thanks for taking the call.
Join the conversation. Call or text at 615-737-1025. Driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. You're listening to Stillman and Company.
Presented by TriStar Moving.
On ESPN 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app.
They are unique. I think the way they go about it, it's a really tight group. But if there's a team that played here, again, I kind of started with it. It didn't disappoint. They all love each other, you know, including Florida's roster. I'm looking at some names, and they're all going to play with passion. I guess it's to what extent are you willing to do it throughout the good and bad, and then, you know, how determined are you to kind of hold on to that? Because I've seen programs and maybe even been part of teams where it kind of vanishes as time goes on, but this deal seems to be gaining strength.
There you go. That was Tony Vitello, the Tennessee coach. All that he just said, I couldn't care less about. I mean,
well, all right then.
But if he wants to yell about the umpires or he wants to, you know, say something crazy, then that would, to me, get Tennessee to be an A1 story. Before we get to your phones, and again, this is an equal opportunity show. For years, the Vandy baseball fans would yell at us for not talking about Vandy baseball, and now Tennessee baseball is the hot item. And I'm saying the same thing about Tennessee baseball that I've been saying about Vandy baseball, except I never expected Tim Corbin to, you know, hit an umpire with a baseball bat. That would certainly be out of character. Although he takes it seriously, and if his parents are in town, you know, he might.
You never know what he's going to do.
So speaking of Vandy, I have to get this off my chest, and then I promise to your phones. I heard this morning just listening to the morning show. Joe Rexrode, and I used to joke and call him Vandy Joe, because every, like, optimistic narrative about Vanderbilt Joe rolls with until it becomes incredibly obvious that you can't see it anymore. And apparently he's doing that for our buddy Clark Lee and Vandy football. This was Joe this morning.
But on the football front, I mean, look at Vanderbilt. I think there's a lot of positive momentum for Vanderbilt, right? A lot of programs. I mean, I think we're going to see that in women's basketball. You know, we'll see with men's basketball. I mean, it's gotten better, but it's got to take another step. Obviously, baseball is great, but like when football struggles, I think you miss it a little bit more.
What about the 2-10 football season last year is positive momentum?
I think he means there's other sports that are gaining momentum, but when your football team is bad, nothing else matters.
No, he just said there's positive momentum for football. They were 2-10 last year.
Yeah, I don't know what you could say about positive momentum for Vanderbilt football.
Was it the 23-3 loss to ETSU?
Other than the fact that, if you like Clark Lee, but also
I do like Clark Lee.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
Do you know who they beat last year?
Did they beat Colorado State?
They beat them by 3.
Okay.
And they beat UConn at home by 2.
Let's go Huskies. All right.
Was it the 40-2 loss to Florida?
2. Where did that come from?
42 to 0.
Okay.
Lost to Florida.
And with a pretty bad Florida team at that.
45-6 to Mississippi State.
Got something on the board.
31-17 at Ole Miss. I mean, goodness.
Admittedly, I don't think that you can be incredibly confident about the direction of the Vanderbilt football program as it has not gone anywhere.
What about the women's basketball
forever.
program that Joe was just talking about?
I know nothing about the Vanderbilt women's basketball program, and I won't claim to.
Okay, now I'll say this. They stink, but they've got an assistant coach I like, and I think he's a good guy. Vanderbilt men's basketball just wasted Scottie Pippen's career. He says, we could see basketball. Joe, they stink.
Their golf
team. Their new logo is horrible.
That has nothing to do with it, but it is awful.
It's awful.
I do not like it. But the golf team is good.
No, the one guy won the national championship yesterday.
Yeah.
Oh, my God, the amount of people that were tweeting me about that. Yeah, oh, goodness. All right, to your phones as promised.
Bowling.
Phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHonda.com. Alex on college baseball. Go ahead.
Hey, Jared. I don't know, man. Like you said, equal opportunity, and I'm going to be the side you don't want to hear. But I think you're doing your town a disservice by not paying as much attention or not giving them the limelight at least when they deserve it. Vanderbilt won championships, national championships, 2019, which was not last year, but the second to last championship we've had. And what was the other one? 2014. And they've sent numerous players to the pros, and then there's also, not to get off too much of the college topic, but there's also major talks in Major League Baseball about bringing Major League Baseball to Nashville.
No, there is not.
Bringing Major League Baseball to Nashville, if you look at any poll that's been put out about, okay, where's Major League Baseball thinking about moving to when they expand in the next 5 years, Nashville is on the top 5 of every one of those lists.
Okay,
but
it doesn't matter.
We may have a mayor that doesn't want to build a stadium for them. I guarantee you that. But
Nashville, there will never be. And Alex, I shouldn't say never, and I appreciate your call. Given the way that that Davidson County votes, there will never be a politician that is willing to pay the billions of dollars required by whoever wants to move their team here or whatever in order to build a stadium. And Nashville is not important enough where a rich person is going to want to pay for the land and build a stadium like Stan Kroenke did with the Rams because they'd rather just go somewhere else where someone else will build them a stadium. Los Angeles is that important. Nashville is not. So it's just I know. There's a fake group that pretends like they're going to get an MLB team here. They have no explanation on how to do it. They have no ownership and plan. They don't have anything like that, and they're good for a story once every 4 months that, somebody will write whatever they tell them. But no, it's not happening. And by the way, we do talk about those stories on the air.
Yeah, we do. We talked about it a couple weeks ago, actually.
But the college baseball stuff, again, you can tell me that they're good. The golfer that won the NCAA championship for Vandy's good. People in their cars driving home from work would not rather hear about that than hear about Tannehill. It's just that's how it works. I hate to break it to you. That's how it works. Tim Corbin stood up a press conference after they lost. We reamed him out for 45 minutes, never talked about it again. If Mike Vrabel stood up the media after a loss for a Titans game, it would be a national discussion. Ryan Tannehill's innocuous comment in the Malik Willis thing a couple weeks ago was a national discussion for 2 weeks. It's just different.
And to that caller's point of, Vanderbilt has won 2 national championships in the past 8 years, let's say. That's great. I don't think either of us have ever said that Vanderbilt is not a good program or isn't a good baseball team. But it's just, are you going to talk about it?
Yeah, I just
That's
don't think
the
people
difference.
care. I just don't think people care. I mean, I just don't think it's worth having someone on to talk about, hey, what do we think about Vanderbilt in the bullpen today? What do we think about what's our text line say? Give me the gist here before we get to Trevor. What does the text line say as far as this discussion is concerned?
Well, there's a lot of texters texting in about how Vanderbilt has made 16 straight postseasons.
Oh, God.
Which is good for them. It is. I mean, that's great. Good job, Vanderbilt baseball. Good job. Another texter texts in and says Tennessee this year is like the 72 Dolphins, possibly the best best assembled college team in history. They're very good.
They're freaking good.
May never be another team this good. I think if you don't talk about it, you miss a once in a lifetime team.
What's the best college baseball team of all time? Period.
I have no idea.
Ian?
No clue.
Okay, well, I know that the 72 Dolphins are undefeated. I know who the quarterback was. I know who the star player was. I know who the coach was. And I was not born for almost 30 years, 20 years. I know who the coach was. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's my point. It's like, this is like the 72 Dolphins, and if you're missing this opportunity.
I mean, it's not the NFL, which is just the largest sports behemoth in the world. It's not the NFL.
I'm going to tell you what it would take in order for this to be a hot discussion. Vanderbilt has to play Tennessee. If those two teams play each other, and didn't we
that
almost?
That would be such good tea.
Weren't we almost there? Like, weren't they? And they might have been on opposite ends of the bracket last year. But if Vanderbilt plays Tennessee in a super regional, and I know they can't this year, but if they play in a super regional, or if they play in Omaha or something like that, that I think it would be worth. Vanderbilt versus Tennessee would do it. Anything else I don't think would.
If they play in Omaha, yes. Because I do think, just off the top of my head, the bracket, I think that's possible.
Do we have anybody in the text line that says, no, I don't want to hear this talk?
Yes.
A lot or a little?
A little.
Because I feel like most people that don't want to hear it.
Terry says that's enough baseball.
Terry said that?
Yeah, Terry's over it.
Ian, do you remember the old days of Floyd talking about Vandy and the old days of Floyd talking about baseball?
Humbug, something like that. Yep.
Humbug, every strike one. Guy go in there, scratch himself, and then wait, humbug.
Not a big baseball guy.
Ball two. I mean, he used to just crap on baseball all the time. Trevor Maddich will join us next. Nick Saban is talking to the media, clarifying his Jimbo Fisher comments. Jimbo Fisher is apparently not talking to the media. I got a strong take on that. Trevor will join us next. Stillman and Company. Your Nashville best deal of the week is Beach Bend Amusement Park and Splash Lagoon Water Park. Buy one-day pass for $35.99 and get one free now at theGameNashville.com/deals.
Wednesday night, it's Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Final. As the Tampa Bay Lightning take on the New York Rangers.
Tyler Lott, he scores!
Coverage begins at 6:30
on ESPN
102.5 and 106.3 The Game, and on the Game Nashville app.
This segment of ESPN 102.5 The Game is brought to you by Train Heating and Cooling Systems. Tested, retested, engineered, and re-engineered to keep up with you. We run together. Visit traininfo.com to find your local independent train dealer. Traininfo.com. It's hard to stop a train.
The hottest financing offer is back at Genesis Diamonds. 5 years, 0 interest financing with nothing down on practically everything in the showroom. That $3,000 Eternity Band is just $50 a month. Buy now, put nothing down, and spread your payments over 5 years with 0 interest. Available till June 18th only. Get that $6,000 designer ring and pay just $100 a month. We'll even finance the sales tax. Fine jewelry has never been more affordable at Genesis Diamonds. Green Hills and Cool Springs on approved credit.
We're in the most active season of the year right now, but if you've got joint pain, you may be on the sidelines. Hips, knees, back pain, shoulder pain. It sucks the fun out of living, but I've got the solution. QC Kinetics, helping people here in our listening area get the fun back. It's regenerative medicine. It's the hottest thing going. It's basically taking growth factors with the healing properties from your own body, highly concentrated, then putting them into your aching joints. This is exciting. It's in the office. It's non-surgical. No drugs, no surgery, no downtime. So stop putting it off. Call QC Kinetics and learn more about regenerative medicine and get a free in-office consultation now. Call the local medical professionals at QC Kinetics. 615-249-4024. That's 615-249-4024 for QC Kinetics. Repair and restore damaged tissue in your joints and get the long-lasting relief from pain.
Buy one, get one free admission. Beach Bend Park is your ticket to summer fun. Big park, bigger fun, and big savings with BOGO admission at Beach Bend Park and Splash Lagoon, where parking, tubes, and sunscreen are always free. 2 parks, 2 tickets for the price of 1. It's just a short drive to Bowling Green, Kentucky. Get your Beach Bend Park and Splash Lagoon BOGO deal while they last at thegamenashville.com/deals. That's thegamenashville.com/deals.
Darren McFarland.
A lot of dots to connect there, a lot of storylines.
Willie Donick.
Be careful what you wish for.
And Chase McCabe.
Yes, because it's my favorite.
Get through your workday with Darren, Donick, and Chase. Weekdays 10 to 2.
Great 3-man band live. Fired up.
Let's go. On Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN.
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
I think they would love to see that.
Watch live on YouTube, Twitch, and Periscope.
When you see that, click on it.
Robbie and Rex Road here on ESPN.
Welcome into the DDC.
Stillman Company is delivered.
There's a new way to hear 102.5 The Game. Nashville's best sports talk on 106.3 FM. From downtown Nashville to Spring Hill on I-65 and to Murfreesboro on I-24. You now have 2 choices to hear our great sports programming.
Get the extra point, no problem.
And the Nashville Predators.
He scores!
Check out 106.3 now and save it as a preset.
Hey Nashville, Trey Wingo here. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Stillman and Company, the SEC meetings that everybody was so excited about are happening right now in Destin. And I never really got suckered into the Saban versus Jimbo dispute. I think it was like a big Twitter thing when it happened. I think everybody was stunned that one coach would go after another coach as strong as Jimbo Fisher went after Nick Saban. And so we all know what happened. It happened, 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago? I can't remember how many weeks ago it happened, but it happened. And Saban and Jimbo went at each other. And all of a sudden, everybody got excited for the start of the SEC spring meetings, which happen every year in Destin, and every coach goes, and it's like a kumbaya of the SEC. And really not much happens. Every now and then they might change a rule here or there, but it's really nothing more than a kumbaya. But they send Paul Feinbaum down there, and so they kind of make a big deal about it, whatever. Well, now everybody's excited because it's when Saban is going to see Jimbo, and everybody wants to know. And yet, it kind of feels like both guys have been kind of muzzled. I was watching ESPN this morning. Heather Dinich said Jimbo Fisher is not planning to speak with the media at the SEC spring meetings. And I struggle with this because this is my theory on talking the trash. If you're going to talk it, you better talk it. You know, if you're going to go there like Jimbo did, you got to go there. It's like I'm reading this book about the Lakers, back in the day. Kobe, Shaq, Phil Jackson. And they're driving through Cleveland, and Kobe gets into it with Samaki Walker, who was a random backup player. And Kobe, I believe, punched Samaki Walker or something on the bus, which was totally out of shape for Kobe. And Shaq looked at Samaki Walker and was like, you can't let him do you like that. So Samaki Walker tells Phil Jackson, stop the bus. Well, Phil Jackson knows what's going to happen, right? Like, Phil Jackson knows why Samaki Walker wants to stop the bus. They're the Los Angeles Lakers, the world champions in the middle of Nowheresville, Cleveland. You pull over to the side of the road so Kobe Bryant can get his butt kicked. Everybody is going to see Kobe Bryant get his butt kicked. It's going to become this huge deal. You know what Phil Jackson did?
Stop the bus?
Stop the bus. Because he realized, hey, if you're going to do this, you got to do it. And you can't let them talk to you like that. You got to do it. And so when Saban and Jimbo are doing all this talking, I'm like, hey, let's let them go for it. And now Jimbo's not talking. We'll get to what Saban had to say, but he kind of backtracked it a little bit. Trevor Maddux joins us now, ESPN college football analyst presented by Houston Clinic Orthopedics, when experience matters. Trev, I got to be honest with you. I feel worse about Jimbo and Saban now, more so Jimbo, than I did going into all this, because it's like he wanted to be Mr. Tough Guy for 5 minutes, but now is bringing it all back. What do you make of it?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I have had experience with both of those coaches, and I respect them both. But I think in this sort of mutual outburst, I think Nick Saban is the one that was relatively okay, and Jimbo Fisher is the one that's really not acquitted himself very well. I think Jimbo's the one that kind of is in a bad place, and Saban, when everybody goes back and looks at what he said and the context in which he said it, it's really hard to be mad at him. The only thing to be mad at Saban about was when he named names. Instead of saying, hey, there are teams that we compete with in recruiting that have bought their recruiting class this year. And keep in mind, he was talking to a group of boosters. And he was essentially telling them that we don't buy recruits, but we might have to start. And if we do, you guys had better pony up with a whole bunch of NIL money like these other teams are so that we don't fall behind them. If he'd have done that, then anybody that spoke up and said, hey, Coach Saban, that was unfair, would be exposing themselves as teams that did buy a recruiting class. But instead, Saban came out and named Texas A&M as a team that bought a recruiting class, and he also named Jacksonville State, Coach Prime's team. Wow, I get those two confused. Anyway, so the point is that by saying that, Nick Saban was wrong. He particularly, specifically pointed out a team by name, and Saban apologized for that. But then he pointed out that he never said that A&M did anything illegal, unethical, or wrong. He was just telling his own boosters, you guys had better pick up the pace too. The response by Jimbo was to immediately call a press conference and lash out personally at Nick Saban, personally, not by name, but everybody knew what he was talking about. He said that Saban, and we knew it was Saban, even though Jimbo didn't say that, was God, that he was a narcissist, that he had a whole lot of things in his past that if you looked into him, you'd think totally differently of Nick Saban. These are the things that Jimbo did. And those things, to me, were beyond the pale. Nick Saban said something he shouldn't have, naming Texas A&M, apologized for it, but then Jimbo came out and went scorched earth personal. And so that's why I think that if you want to score this thing, it's Jimbo Fisher who was wrong.
See, here's what bothers me the most about it, Trev, is that I felt like Jimbo, like he went there, but he didn't go all the way there with his press conference. Then, after the SEC told him to cut it out, he cut it out. You know, first it was, I think last week, he told that reporter, you know, you need to do your homework or something like that. And now he's not going to meet with the media at Destin. I look at Jimbo and I'm like, that guy's a fake tough guy. He's the guy, you know, who threatens to fight, and he's like, hey, hold me back, hold me back, hold me back. It's like, dude, you just want me to hold you back. And because I was thinking about this today, clearly Greg Sankey told Jimbo, don't say anything. And Jimbo is taking orders. I think if you're Jimbo, after the machismo that you showed the first time, I think you have to be willing to get suspended for a game, and I think you have to go after Saban full time because that's what everybody's expecting, and when you don't, you look soft.
Yeah, you're right about it's like a baseball fight where the batter charges the pitcher, but he goes just slow enough to know that the catcher will catch him from behind before he gets to the mound.
Yes.
Right? That kind of a thing. Yeah, I see your point, and I think it's a very good point. I think that at this point, Saban apologized for what he did wrong, and he was right to apologize for it. Name Texas A&M by name. I think Jimbo Fisher would have to apologize for what he did, which was call Saban personally, not by name, but everybody knew he was talking about. Names like narcissist and God and other things like that. Make accusations that Saban has cheated, or at least veiled accusations that Saban has cheated, where Saban didn't make any accusation at all that Texas A&M cheated, just that they use the rules that currently exist to buy recruits, right? Which kind of everybody's doing right now.
Sure.
So that's not so much of a personal thing that's out of the ordinary. And in order for Jimbo to resuscitate himself there, he would have to apologize for all of that stuff. The thing is, he's got two bad choices. One is to apologize personally to Nick Saban in public at Destin at the SEC meetings in prepared remarks before he takes questions from the media that he called him a narcissist and all those other different things. He needs to say something to the effect of, when he first heard it, he thought it was a personal attack. The more he looked at it, the more he realized he overreacted, he was wrong, and he apologized. Now, if he does that, it'll be a little embarrassing, but it will then blow over after a few difficult questions from the media at Destin. It'll go away for the most part. By not speaking at Destin, it gives the impression that he's afraid to own up to his own words. And that is far worse than apologizing correctly for the things that he should correctly apologize for. So this, to me, is a horrifically bad PR move by Jimbo Fisher to not answer questions in front of the media at Destin.
Well, you've left out the third choice.
Okay.
Go for the end zone.
Go for the what?
Go for the end zone. Go for the jugular. Get out there and sit there and say, just tell. Clearly you don't like the guy. Clearly there's things you know about in the past that you want us to know, but you won't say. Clearly the SEC is telling you not to say it. I mean, if Jimbo gets out there and says it, just goes full court press. Now, Sankey's going to suspend him if he does it. But you know what?
Yeah, but
I'd have more respect for him if he was willing to stand up for what he believed in, as opposed to getting a slap on the wrist and turtling up.
But if that's what he believes, he's just wrong. He's believing the wrong thing. If he believes that Nick Saban deserved that kind of diatribe and continues to now, after he's had time to look into the context of what Saban actually did and didn't say, then Jimbo's just flat wrong, if that's what he truly believes. So I agree with you. If that's what he truly believes, stand up and say it, right? But if he did stand up and say it, who would it make look bad? Saban or Jimbo?
I mean, I don't know. I don't know what he would say. I don't know what all this gossip that he says is so bad that he wouldn't tell us is.
If he doubled down on that, it would make Saban look like he did the right thing when he made a mistake. He apologized. It would make Jimbo look like an insolent child. And it would make Jimbo look bad, and it would hurt his recruiting, I think, going forward. Certainly would hurt his credibility going forward. I think he should not do what you said, plan C, go for the end zone on that. It should have been either don't say anything, which he chose, or go up and apologize, which is what he absolutely should have done. See, the worst thing to me, though, is if somebody in one of their camps, some insider in the Alabama camp or the Texas A&M camp, decided that they wanted to go scorched earth behind the scenes, call up reporters that they know are sympathetic, and say to them on deep background, so their name is never said, what they know. Name names, name dates, name dollar amounts about cheating that they say that they know about, and then let ugly mud get slung, hopefully just against the coach, whichever one is against you, and it would drag him down. The problem is if that kind of behind-the-scenes, scorched earth release of information that may or may not be true, if that kind of mudslinging happens between boosters of Alabama and Texas A&M, everybody will look ugly. Everybody will look bad. And to me, that would be far worse than anything that Jimbo Fisher could or could not say, or say something or don't say it or go for the end zone. The worst thing that could happen is people that say they support them to turn this into the ugliest of ugly mudslinging, mudfests that I've ever seen in college football. I do hope that does not happen, but I worry about it because if Jimbo is so chapped that he won't even go in front of the media in Destin, if that's why he's not going up in front of the media, if someone didn't ban him from it, his own school or something. But if he is so chapped about Saban that he won't even go up and explain why he said what he said, that's where somebody in the A&M camp might, I say this hypothetical, might want to defend Jimbo by dragging Saban through as much mud as they possibly can with anonymous leaks, and I hope that doesn't happen.
Okay, here's what I want. Text line, 615-737-1025. What do you think Jimbo should do? You think he should keep his mouth shut? You think he should apologize? Do you think he should double down? I want everybody's opinion on this. I want Caroline's. I want Ian's. Trevor, we know what you think, and I think we know what I think. I want to get to that on the other side. Plus, there's this weird rumor about the SEC making their own playoff. I heard Heather Dinich talking about it. I want Trevor's thoughts on that as well. That's next. Presented by Houston Clinic Orthopedics. When experience matters. Stillman and Company. It's ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Let's put the green flag in the air and turn them loose.
Nashville's home for NASCAR.
He's going to try to make a big move here.
It's brought to you by the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway.
Checker flag.
We are your racing station.
ESPN
102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And the Game Nashville app.
From the Fox 17 News Code Red Weather Center.
Hot and muggy heading into the evening hours tonight, and looking at mild conditions with temperatures near 70. Another hot and steamy day for Wednesday. Highs in the low 90s with partly cloudy skies. For Fox 17, I'm Chief Meteorologist Katie Morgan.
This weather report brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical.
Call the Happy Face Truck today.
Suffering from junk sleep? Mattress Firm can help. Get a king bed for a queen price and save up to $500 off during the best Memorial Day sale ever.
Hi guys, it's Andrew with Hillside Medical Clinic. Is erectile dysfunction damaging your relationship? Are you sick of the pill and all the side effects? Well, welcome to the future. We have a major medical breakthrough. Hillside Medical Clinic uses the most advanced form of wave therapy. Backed by 60 clinical studies, our technology uses pressure waves to repair and open up blood vessels. We've helped countless men get rid of their ED. But what is the true end result? Their relationship, even their lives, improve drastically. If you're ready to regain your love life, call us right now, and not only will the assessment and ultrasound be free, we'll also give you a gift that produces immediate results in the bedroom. It almost never fails. This is worth $550, and it's free to callers right now. 615-576-5000. That's 615-576-5000. Put a stop to your erectile dysfunction and experience what I call the happiness ripple effect. Call Hillside Medical Clinic now, 615-576-5000.
From elegant to contemporary, Social Furniture has it all. And right now, get no interest financing on any purchase through Memorial Day. Save hundreds, even thousands on top brand name bedroom suites, living room and dining sets. Thousands of combinations in stock, ready for immediate delivery. All colors and styles are designer brand names, such as Woodhouse, Sealy, Serta, Kincaid, Bernhardt, Stearns & Foster, and Bassett. Shop local, shop social. Social Furniture opens 7 days a week on the west side on Charlotte Avenue in the Richland Creek Shopping Center.
For the love of Tennessee at dawn. For the love of the fight. For the love of having nowhere else you'd rather be. For the love of Tennessee. Travel safe. Brought to you by the Tennessee Department of Tourist Development, the Tennessee Association of Broadcasters, and this station.
Hey, Nashville, it's Chase McKay, Program Director of ESPN 102.5 The Game, and there's a new way that you can hear Nashville's best sports talk. It's on 106.3 FM. From downtown Nashville to Spring Hill on I-65 and to Murfreesboro on I-24, you now have two choices to hear our great sports talk programming. And, of course, the Nashville Predators. Check out 106.3 now and save it as a preset.
Darren McFarland.
That's the most personality I think I've heard.
Willie Donick.
Give me credit. I said it.
Chase McCabe.
I still talk to people outside of this building.
The DDC. Weekdays from 10 to 2.
Presented by Spring Hill Heating and Cooling.
On Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app. You're listening to Stillman and Company.
Sounds like this has been a game-changing day for all of us.
Presented by TriStar Moving.
on ESPN
102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app.
Heather, I will start with you. So we've all been waiting, what would you give to be a fly on the wall when these two are in the same room? Well, today it's going to happen, right? What are the flies on the wall going to hear?
Well, first of all, Greg Sankey told me yesterday that he has turned the page on this. I asked him if he is going to say anything to these coaches in the room about not having public spats, and he said that's not for me to broadcast. I'm told by a school spokesman that Jimbo Fisher will be here today. Sankey told me all coaches are going to be here for the mandatory meeting. Fisher will not be making any public comments today. But look, Greg Sankey said that he is ready to move on. We'll find out today if the coaches are ready to move on.
There you go. That was Heather Dinich this morning on ESPN. Trevor Maddich, ESPN, is with us. Presented by Houston Clinic Orthopedics, when experience matters. And again, you heard right there from Heather Dinich. Greg Sankey wouldn't say if he told those coaches not to talk, but Jimbo Fisher's not talking. Sounds like Jimbo had his talking privileges taken away. So, again, we have three choices, Trevor. One, Jimbo could apologize. 2, Jimbo could stay silent, which it looks like that's the path he's choosing to go. 3, he could double down and really lay out the business on Saban. And I think Jimbo kind of looks like a pawn if he's going to let the SEC tell him what to do. Caroline, what do you think Jimbo should do?
I hear Trev on Jimbo should come out and apologize. But I look at Nick Saban, for example, like if that was a video taken from a private event, and yeah, Nick Saban went a little bit too far, but I see him apologizing, sorry, didn't mean anything by it, didn't want to accuse anyone of anything, so on and so forth. Jimbo, on the other hand, he called for that press conference. That was calculated. He put a lot of things out there that you just can't take back. So to go on this just soliloquy and be so irate,
what should you do?
You can't apologize if you're Jimbo. That makes you look so bad.
So say nothing or go after Saban.
I would say nothing, because going after Saban doesn't help you either.
Ian?
If you apologize and if you go after Saban, that both of those things make you look like a baby.
Ian?
I think I'm on the say nothing side as well.
Oh, no. What's the text line say?
Text line says, sling that mud, Jimbo.
Yes!
From Josh.
Trevor, what do you think Greg Sankey would do if Jimbo said, you know what, I'm a $10 million coach. I got $100 million in the bank. My contract's guaranteed. Screw it. Screw you. Screw Saban. Go. What do you think Greg
He'd fine him. I don't know that he'd suspend him because that might hurt his team on the field. I don't know that you want to punish the players for something you're trying to punish the coach for. And fining, he's got so much money, but at least it would be a little public slap. But to me, if Jimbo had a point that he was right to say what he said about Saban, then I could see the point where he should just not say anything and let it blow over. But it's kind of like if you see your 6-year-old child steal a candy bar from the drugstore and put it in his pocket, and then you walk up and you say, did you steal that candy bar? No, I didn't steal the candy bar. You know he did it. Everybody knows that Jimbo was wrong. At least let's put it this way. Everybody that thinks like I do knows that Jimbo was wrong to go so personally after Saban when Saban wasn't going personally after him. Even if Jimbo thought that Saban was calling him a cheater originally, I think now as more information has come out and more context has come out, I don't think you can say that Saban called Jimbo a cheater or called his recruits and their families cheaters at all. Sure. And so I think that the best thing for that 6-year-old kid would be to say, yes, Mommy, I did steal a candy bar. I'm sorry, I'll never do it again. Then it goes away. If you don't, then it doesn't go away. And so I don't think silence would help Jimbo here at all. I think it'll make it worse. He seems to me like the kid that stole the candy bar.
I have a theory. And to me, this is just, I believe that if Jimbo Fisher lets the SEC hold him back on this, then everything else that he says, nobody will take seriously. Like that if the SEC can muzzle him on this, then it's like, who cares what you think? And I'll say this. Do I think Saban's cheated to get players in the past? I do. Do I think Jimbo's cheated to get players in the past?
Yes.
I do. Do I think Jimbo lied over that whole Jameis Winston thing? I do. Do I care that they're paying the players now and how they're paying the players? I don't. I don't care. And so I don't think it's that really this big of a deal, but Jimbo got so worked up about it and made it so personal that I do feel like he owes an explanation for that. And I don't know why the SEC is trying to hold him back. The ratings for the Alabama A&M game are going to be through the roof. If Jerry Jones was the commissioner of the SEC, he'd let him get in a cage match. I mean, I guess I just look at it like I kind of think Jimbo's a phony if he doesn't answer for what he said. Because what he said was so bombastic and so accusatory that if he doesn't answer for it, Trev, then I almost kind of feel like he's hiding.
Yeah, he needs to either explain why he was right or apologize because he understands that he misunderstood and misinterpreted what Saban said. One of those two things. If he doesn't do one of those two things, in other words, make his case convincingly or apologize because he can't, then everything remains about Jimbo. Not about the players, not about the team. It's all about Jimbo. And I don't think he wants everything to be about Jimbo. I think he wants it to be about his team.
Trev, I heard Heather Dinich talking this morning. I guess one of the rumors that's out there that Greg Sankey addressed was, would the SEC go to their own playoff? And I'm sitting there this morning eating breakfast, listening to her talk about this, and I'm like, would that mean that they would make almost like an SEC tournament to lead into the playoff? Or what is this? And two, why would the SEC ever not play the other schools in the playoff? Because that's college football. We don't want to see the SEC play just the SEC. We want to see the SEC beat the Big Ten and beat the ACC and beat the Big 12 and beat the Pac-12. That's what we want to see. What is this that we're talking about, Trev?
Right. Well, I think it's a shot across the bow, because college football is better when every region of the country is involved in the national championship hunt. And that way they're looking at other regions that they normally wouldn't care too much about. And that's why the 12-team playoff, I think, is the best scenario. The SEC feels like that they gave up quite a bit as the most powerful league with the most teams that could get multiple teams into the playoff in this discussion of the 12-team playoff. And then at the last minute, it was torpedoed. And I think there's some bad feelings there. Now, I don't think the SEC is going to run their own playoff in addition to a national playoff. But what they could do is this. They could say, all right, we're going to run our own playoff, and then Big Ten, you run your own playoff, and then we'll have a Super Bowl challenge between the two. And if the ACC and the Pac-12 and whoever else doesn't want to go to 12, no problem at all. We'll just leave them in the dust, because that would hurt college football nationally, but it would make a fortune for the SEC and the Big Ten. And keep in mind this, that last week, Michigan State's athletic director said that the Big Ten was indeed actively looking into conference expansion. Now, to me, that's news, because I thought they kind of put that to rest. But if the Big Ten picks up, say, USC and UCLA or something like that, if somebody picks up Florida State and Clemson once the contracts allow, and those two conferences move forward, so there isn't one super conference, there's two, and everybody else is in their own division, I think that's a shot across the bow to the ACC, who was one of the conferences that cabled the 12-team playoff right away because they thought there was too much uncertainty going on in college football at the time. Well, now the uncertainty is, will they get left behind and left out? And that might be a little motivation for them.
Ooh, Trevor Matich, as always, presented by Houston Clinic Orthopedics, when experience matters. Trev, appreciate you. We'll talk next week.
Thanks, Jared.
Yep, Trevor Matich joining us on the program. So apparently you all have spoken when it comes to Adam Vingen's Predators fan survey. And there's a couple of items on here that got people worked up, including our midday show, which we'll get to next. Stillman and Company right here at ESPN 102.5 The Game.
You love the game.
Duchesne scores! Titans touchdown!
We live the game.
They did not make the playoffs. Coaches are figuring out what his role is.
We are.
Terang, it's a high fly ball.
Learn a new offense.
Awesome game set.
Checkered flag in the air.
The Game. Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And the Game Nashville app.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
The versatile Kubota B-Series is a do-it-all tractor, part of our under 100 horsepower tractor lineup rated #1 for reliability. You can run powerful attachments that can be easily switched out. The Kubota B-Series. Talk to your local Kubota dealer today to schedule a demo. Go to KubotaUSA.com for full disclaimer.
If you missed the latest edition of Talking with TD.
Former Maryland, now Titans tight end, Chig Okonkwo, from college to the NFL, there's even more learning that you could acquire, would you say?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's so much more learning, and I've figured that out in the short time that I've been here, that even now, like, I remember when coming from high school, going to college, I remember saying, oh, I really don't know anything about football. And now I'm saying the same thing, like, oh, I really don't know anything about football, really, because the NFL is just a completely different game. You know, it's all these different rules, these new rules, different body types, a lot stronger guys. There's different techniques you got to use now, and just different schemes and all these different things. So there's definitely a huge learning curve that, I'm excited for. I'm excited for the challenge to learn it all.
Search Talking with TD today on your favorite podcast platform. The newest edition drops every Wednesday at theGameNashville.com and the Game Nashville app.
You know it's going to happen, and when your car needs service or repair, remember Mitchell's Mr. Transmission on Gallatin Road, just north of Briley Parkway. Now here's Jim Mitchell.
Our fleet vehicle program is a great benefit to all the fleet companies in Nashville. We are able to get their vehicle back on the road a lot quicker than the downtime of most dealers and most general repair shops, simply because we have the transmissions available. We're able to put priority on their vehicles to get them back on the road quickly.
You know it's going to happen, and when your car needs service or repair, remember Mitchell's Mr. Transmission on Gallatin Road, just north of Briley Parkway.
The game text line is driven by Wilson County Hyundai. Online at wilsoncountyhyundai.com. Be a part of the conversation. Call or text the game at 615-737-1025.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. Dashboard light problems? We can help. Our free Fix Finder service can read your check engine light, ABS light, and service indicator light, and give you possible solutions, verified by licensed technicians. You'll even get detailed results sent straight to your email so you have them when you need it most. It's the most complete free warning light report backed by technician-verified fixes. The free Fix Finder service, only at AutoZone.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
More details at AutoZone.com.
From the Hillside Medical Game Studios, WPRT-FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne, broadcasting on Alexa.
I appreciate that.
And other smart speakers.
ESPN
102.5 and 106.3. Terang, it's a high fly ball.
The leading receiver.
Awesome
Game 7.
Checkered flag in the air.
The Game.
A Cromwell Media Station.
Where you have a voice.
We're one play away from an injury. He knows this. He's a study of the game.
And we have strong opinions.
He's been awful. I don't think they were trying, and that's why I feel the way I feel.
This is Stillman and Company with Jared Stillman and Caroline Fenton. Presented by TriStar Moving on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app.
Stillman & Company is delivered by TriStar Moving, ESPN 102.5. The game streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. Thanks to the law offices of Amanda Gentry. Live from the Hillside Medical Game Studios. Nashville Predator fans are fired up. That Adam Vingan put out a survey on The Athletic, the fan survey, and the results are out. And no matter how much this bothers Robbie Stanley, which apparently is a lot, I am going to discuss this. Because I guess Robbie got mad the other day. I don't know. I was on vacation, but apparently Robbie was talking about how, we're not going to read this verbatim, which we took the survey on the air last week. But he was like, I'm not going to read this verbatim because people pay for The Athletic. And I'm like, yeah, I pay for The Athletic.
As do I.
So since I pay for it, I'm going to talk about it. So, anywho, they have the Preds fan survey results. Last year, 940 people voted in this survey. This year, 1,200 people voted in the survey. So either Adam did a better job of getting people, to pay attention to the survey, or people are more passionate about their level of upset.
Feel more compelled.
So they went that way. First question. Which word best describes your feeling about the current state of the Predators? And again, you have to subscribe to The Athletic in order to take this, which Joe has this theory that people who subscribe to The Athletic know more or are more educated than the people who reply on a Twitter poll. Don't look at me like that, like I said it. I'm just saying Joe said it.
Yeah, I'm just trying to go through his thought process. I'm not following it, but do your thing, Joe.
So I think Joe was very disappointed when he found out how many people on his poll didn't like the John Hines contract extension. So he figured that, the Athletics people would know better because that poll might be better than the poll that he put out that didn't match what he thought people were going to say. Anywho, which word best describes your feeling about the current state of the Predators? Skeptical leads the way at 36.5. Frustrated is second at 23.2. Pessimistic is 18.5. Optimistic is 13%, and apathetic is 8.9. Now, here's the good news. All those things are bad except optimistic, right?
And that's something that Adam Vingan pointed out, and something that I noticed when we took the survey. Like 4 out of 5 of these options are bad.
So bad, good,
bad,
terrible. Like apathetic is the worst you could be.
Is it?
Yeah, people don't care.
Apathetic?
So the opposite of love, I heard this yesterday. The opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is apathy.
Wow.
Or indifference. Where you just don't care. And so
I guess, there's a fine line between love and hate.
So I would look at it like this. 13% of the Predators fans are optimistic, and what would
almost
that leave?
80%.
77% aren't happy.
Yeah.
So that should tell you how the people feel about the Predators right now, which I think is probably fair. That's how I feel about the Predators.
They have every right to feel skeptical or pessimistic or frustrated.
And here's the thing. I'm all these things.
I think you said maybe pessimistic. I said frustrated, but I think those two things go hand in hand.
Like, I'm skeptical because I don't think David Poile knows what he's doing. I'm frustrated because I'm tired of David Poile making bad choices. I'm pessimistic because I don't believe in David Poile. I'm not apathetic because I'm clearly fired up about this. And I'm not optimistic because David Poile's in charge. So that's, I mean, like,
all of those things go hand in hand.
And I don't want to make this about Poile, but it's kind of hard not to, right?
But I think also the people who took the survey made it about Poile because an overwhelming majority of people who took the survey felt indifferent about John Hines' contract extension.
So there's a couple of these little ones that are interesting. And again, we went over the second one, which is on a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 being the highest. How confident are you that David Poile can return the team to Stanley Cup contender status? Let me ask this question before we get to this. Because the number one answer is 2. 2's bad, right?
Mm-hmm.
1 is terrible.
It's the worst.
And that's the number 3 answer at 22.7%. So, again, 5, 2.2% is David is taking us back to the Cup. 2.2% believe that. 4 is what?
10.5.
No. But, like, what would you equate a 4 to?
4 is like, I don't think it's going to happen next year. I don't think it's going to happen maybe in 2 years, but it's going to happen.
3?
3 is like totally indifferent, in the middle of the road. You don't feel passionately one way or another.
Can I say something that's going to sound kind of bougie?
What?
Like, if these were hotels, like, there's a big difference between a 3-star hotel and a 4-star hotel.
For sure.
And
I don't think I would stay in a 3-star hotel.
I don't love staying in 3-star hotels.
No.
I mean, so that is, if 3 is...
If somebody gave, if I owned a restaurant and somebody gave my restaurant 3 stars, I would say that's bad.
Well, don't you think that that's what this equates to on a scale of 1 to 5? With 5 being the highest, how confident are you that David Poile can return the team to the Stanley Cup contender status? And 2 is the highest at almost 40%. Mm-hmm. And 2 is bad. 1 is the worst. I'm a 1. I'm a 1.
Let's look at this as like stars for David Poile. What grade would you give David Poile? 1 stars, 2 stars, 3 stars, 4 stars, 5 stars. I think that's easier to digest.
Like a movie.
Yes.
So he's getting anywhere from a 1 to a 3-star.
Yeah, which isn't good.
I mean,
restaurants,
if he was a wide receiver, that's pretty bad.
Yes. You don't go to places with 1 or 2 stars.
Yeah, it's bad. That's bad. And then to your point, how do you feel about the Predators giving Coach John Hines a new 2-year contract? And 29% are for it, 29% are against it, 41% are indifferent, which I guess is the reality of this poll that the fans are tired of David Poile.
This question alone, indifferent, almost double the amount of people who are for it or against it or indifferent about it, I think shows you that it's less about the coach and more about something else.
Well, no, it doesn't show you that it's less about the coach. It tells you that the fans' frustration, or, let me get the right words, skepticism or pessimism, that it's all about the general manager, which I'm fine with. I mean, Joe has this...
Is that not what I just said?
Well, yeah, but I kind of in a sense of like that the coach... I mean, I'm telling you that the coach doesn't matter at all. Like to these people.
I don't think it's saying that the coach doesn't matter at all. But I think people are looking at David Poile more so than John Hines. I think that's what this question is showing you.
Well, hasn't everybody felt that way?
I would say for the most part.
I mean, I'm not convinced that Hines is a good coach.
I don't think Hines is absolved of all blame, and I think 30% of people against extending John Hines kind of shows you that. But also 42% of people saying that they don't really care about the coach either way, but they're still skeptic or pessimistic or frustrated shows you that there's someone else to blame, and that someone else I can only assume is David Poile.
Well, 80% of the people are not happy. So again, going through these 3 answers, 80% of the people are not happy on one level or another. 77, 13% are optimistic. So almost 80% of the people are not happy with the direction of the franchise. 13%, which is the same as optimistic, 10.5 plus 2.2 is 12.7. So you're talking about 0.3 of a percentage point as the difference between optimistic are giving Poyle a 4 or 5 stars in terms of their belief that he can turn it around. That tells me that everybody that is optimistic is probably the same people that are giving Poyle 4 and 5 stars.
Probably so.
Okay. So that tells you that 77% of the people are mad at Poyle again.
Mm-hmm.
So 77% of people don't like where the franchise is headed, and 77% of the people don't like Poyle. How do you feel about the coach? 40% of the people don't care.
And I would say the 77% of people who are unhappy with Poyle either voted indifferent or against it for John Hines' extension, because that adds up to about 70-ish%.
Yeah, and then the others are like Joe, who every time you bring up Hines, it's like, how dare you talk about Hines because he's not the reason that this team's losing. And it's like, just because he's not the reason doesn't mean he's not a reason.
I think there are several reasons, and I think he's one of them.
He is on the list, but he's not at the top. I would agree. The other stuff I think is kind of all independent, right? Like, would you support a full-scale rebuild? 62% of the people say yes. And again, would you support a full-scale rebuild if it meant picking number 1 in the draft at least once? I mean, 62% of the people say yes, but again, if you do that, then Poyle is the one who's doing it. 77% of the people that are not happy with the direction of the organization. Do you want to hear directly from ownership about the direction of the franchise? 79% say yes. Again, that lines up with our 77. What do they want to hear ownership talk about? What's the one reason they want to hear ownership talk?
David Poyle.
That's the only reason why. So that's what this is. At the end of the day, this is, and then all the other questions, how many starts should UC Saros make? You know, should they sign Philip Forsberg? You know,
in-game experience.
Whatever. When it comes down to Poyle, that's what this is about. This is about Poyle. Like, now that I'm looking through this and going over it, this survey is a referendum that, if you round up, 80% of the fans don't want David Poyle anymore. That's what I take away from this. Is that a fair assessment?
I think it's fair. I think it's fair just looking at, you know, if it was just the one question, how do you feel about the future of the Predators franchise? Skeptical, frustrated, pessimistic, whatever it might be. I wouldn't be able to say, no, that's not about Poyle. It could be about the number of things that are going on within the Predators organization as to why they're not winning. But when you really get into it, and I think it's really the John Hines question that really shows me that it's not about Poyle. Excuse me. It's not all about John Hines.
Sure.
It's about Poyle. It's about the direction of the franchise.
I also think, too, my biggest issue with Hines was the manner in which they hired him. And that's not Hines' fault.
No.
That's Poyle's fault.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't think that Laviolette should have been the one to get the blame for what was going on. And clearly, Poyle realizes that that was the case because he's now come out and said at the press conference, you know, that my last hope was that John was going to fix this, and if not, I was going to make big changes. So even he admits it. That's a tough spot to be in. And 80, 70, let's just say 77. Just let's be fair. 77% of the fans, it feels like, are done with David Poyle. And this is, again, the Adam Vingan poll. It doesn't speak for everybody. It doesn't this. It doesn't that. But
they're at least not happy with the direction of the franchise. Who does that fall on?
It's all Poyle.
Poyle.
615-737-1025 is the phone number. Let's get your reaction again to the fan poll that the more you dig into the numbers, it does feel like 77% or 80% or whatever you want to call it of the Predators fans, of the 1,200 subscribers in Adam Vingan's poll, that these 1,200 people are pointing the finger at Poyle and clearly are frustrated and or want to change. What do we make of that? The other thought I have on that is, can the Predators continue? Everybody talks about if you rebuild, what'll happen to the building, what'll this? What if they stay the same? We'll get to that next. Stillman and Company right here at ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Let's put the green flag in the air and turn them loose.
Nashville's home for NASCAR.
He's going to try to make a big move here.
Is brought to you by the Nashville Super Speedway. We are your racing station.
ESPN
102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And the Game Nashville app.
Hi guys, it's Andrew with Hillside Medical Clinic. Is erectile dysfunction damaging your relationship? Are you sick of the pill and all the side effects? Well, welcome to the future. We have a major medical breakthrough. Hillside Medical Clinic uses the most advanced form of wave therapy. Backed by 60 clinical studies, our technology uses pressure waves to repair and open up blood vessels. We've helped countless men get rid of their ED. But what is the true end result? Their relationship, even their lives, improve drastically. If you're ready to regain your love life, call us right now, and not only will the assessment and ultrasound be free, we'll also give you a gift that produces immediate results in the bedroom. It almost never fails. This is worth $550, and it's free to callers right now. 615-576-5000. That's 615-576-5000. Put a stop to your erectile dysfunction and experience what I call the happiness ripple effect. Call Hillside Medical Clinic now, 615-576-5000.
At the law office of Amanda J. Gentry, we are committed to defending your rights. We have a team committed to helping you navigate the court system, whether you've been accused of a crime or you're going through a messy divorce and custody. Call our team to help you navigate this system. We are here to protect your rights, to demand your rights, to enforce your rights. 615-604-6263. 615-604-6263. AmandaJGentry.com.
Dive into summer savings at Electronic Express. Get huge deals on summer essentials from favorite brands like Traeger grills, Yeti, Samsung, GE, Whirlpool, and more. Electronic Express has huge savings in every department. Outdoor living, appliances, 4K TVs, smart home, furniture, and more. Plus, save up to 40% on all appliances with up to 36 months free financing. Shop in-store or online at electronicexpress.com and get free express delivery on most items. Electronic Express. We make summer happen.
If you have certain chronic conditions such as heart disease,
asthma,
diabetes, and you're 19 years of age or older,
52, 36,
42, you may be at increased risk for pneumococcal pneumonia. Ask your doctor or pharmacist about getting vaccinated with Prevnar 20, pneumococcal 20-valent conjugate vaccine, a Pfizer vaccine that can help protect against pneumococcal pneumonia in just one dose. Prevnar 20 is approved for adults to help prevent infections from 20 strains of the bacteria that cause pneumococcal pneumonia. Continued approval may depend on a supportive study. Don't get Prevnar 20 if you've had a severe allergic reaction to the vaccine or its ingredients. Adults with weakened immune systems may have a lower response to the vaccine. The most commonly reported side effect was pain at the injection site. For additional common side effects and full prescribing information, please call 1-855-213-2138 or visit Prevnar20.com.
I'm going to ask my doctor
about getting vaccinated
with Prevnar 20.
Never miss a moment of the show.
What is this? Check it out.
Subscribe to the Stillman and Company podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts. You're listening to Stillman and Company.
Presented by TriStar Moving.
On ESPN 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app.
We want to do better. We want to do better for everybody. For our fans, the players want to do better. I just thought this year was a really good stepping stone to the future. But it's not going to be easy. That was your original question. It's not going to be easy. Because Colorado, McKinnon first pick, Cal McCarr, fourth pick, Rantanen, top 10, Landeskog, 2. And we haven't had the luxury of that. But we found a way to be competitive. We haven't found a way to get to the ultimate prize. So I don't like the alternative, if that's what you're saying. And now we've heard that twice already about this rebuild. I included that in my comments. Everybody's rebuilding all the time. It's my druthers to keep moving forward, to try to get there this way, than to have a complete rebuild. I don't think that's necessary.
That was David Boyle a couple weeks ago. Again, the Adam Vinkin fan survey is out. We have a correction to make. Apparently, it's not 77% of the fans that are mad at David Boyle.
It's 87.
It's 87. That's why we don't do math on the air.
Numbers are hard.
But again, 13% of the fans are optimistic about the team, and 12.7% give David Boyle a 4 or a 5 in terms of their confidence that he can return them to Stanley Cup contender status. That is 87%.
Yes.
So that means almost 90% of the fans are sick of Boyle.
Mm-hmm. And 13% are optimistic, so yeah.
Okay, so
87%.
anytime we talk about rebuilding, we talked about this the other day. Corey Curtis tweeted me about this. The Midday Show harps on this all the time, which Willie's like, I go to those arenas and call those games of those teams that are rebuilding, and I see all the empty seats, and can we do the empty seats, and can we do this, can we do that? Can I ask an honest question?
Sure.
If 87% of the fans are tired of going in this rudderless direction and the team continues to go in the same direction, I mean, we're at 87%. Like, if Adam Vingan asked in this survey, and Preds fans do not like me. Why? I don't know. But Preds fans, if he asked in this survey, do you like Jared Stillman as the afternoon drive host on the flagship station 102.5? He probably would get a lot of people that would say no, but I don't think it would be 87%. Like, that's a staggering number. Can the team really afford to keep going in the same direction? And I mean this with an honest question and not like with an ounce of venom behind it. Can the team really continue to go in that direction if 87% of the fans are tired of this?
And I think that's my whole thing, is I understand that the Predators are a business. I understand that rebuilding is a really scary word when it comes to selling tickets and staying relevant in the city. I get it. I think the Predators are going to sell tickets and be relevant no matter what. But also, if you keep doing the same thing, people are going to get bored. People are going to say, okay, yeah, this is really fun that they're winning a few games, but also, you know, they've gotten bounced in the first round of the playoffs the past 3 years, and then if it happens again next year, the past 4 years, and I'm making an assumption, but I think that it's going to be really hard to get people to buy in with the same. If you're worried about worse, the Predators being worse and getting people to buy in, yeah, I totally see that. But also monotony, people don't necessarily care to watch that.
I just think about it like this, and I don't know what happened. You know, I'm not in the building, so I don't know, how much Paul Fenton, made an impact on what they were doing or what they weren't doing. I don't know. But in the last 5 years, they haven't drafted well. They haven't traded well. They haven't developed well. Outside of the Cup final and the President's Trophy, they haven't won well. They haven't done anything. I mean, it just feels so rudderless.
But also, you can't take away the Cup run and the President's Trophy. That's part of this team.
But general manager decisions, coaching decisions are affected in live time. A coach makes a decision, sub in this player, take out that player, put that goalie in, take that goalie out, play this line against that line. The coaching decisions are in live time. Run this play on third down, go for it on fourth down. Those things get graded right away. Executive decisions get made down the road. I'll give you an example. Jeff Fisher, terrible football executive, right?
Yes.
Okay. Floyd got fired, essentially, at the end of the 2006 season. The Titans made the playoffs in 2007, and they made the playoffs in 2008. And they didn't make the playoffs again until 2017. Why? Because Albert Hainsworth, Kyle Vandenbosch, Keith Bullock, Vince Young, everybody that mattered on those teams except for Chris Johnson. That was the one guy that wasn't Floyd. Everybody else, all Floyd's players. Then those players go away, and you're stuck with Jake Locker, and you're stuck with Kenny Britt, and you're stuck with all these guys who suck. And the Titans didn't make the playoffs for almost 10 years. So GM decisions affect you down the road, more so than they affect you. So you're paying right
cumulatively.
Now. Right. You're paying right now for a first-round pick for Ryan Hartman. And that player in 2018, you don't have. Right now, for instance, there's a big dichotomy in Boston about the Bruins and whether it's the GM's fault or the coach's fault. And the fans think it's the GM's fault, but the team thinks it's the coach's fault. And it's like they had 3 first-round picks in a row. They didn't get one good player out of the 3 first-round picks in 2015. And Matthew Barzal went after those 3 picks. And he'd be the perfect center to be their number 2 guy to then replace Bergeron and everything else. Well, that's a GM problem. That's not a coach problem. And I think back to this and the decisions that you made. Getting rid of Fiala, the decision to move on from PK Subban, and instead of having those 4 guys, now you had 3, but you thought that Fabro was going to be that guy. You don't have Sam Girard to plug into your top 4, so you're stuck with Alexander Carrier, who's not a top 4 defenseman. All these problems are affecting you now. The decisions that were made in 18, 19, and 2020. The Turris deal, the Hartman deal, the Boyle and Simmons deal, all these deals where they're affecting you now. Just like I told you, the decision that Danny Ainge made to move on from Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce and trade him to the Brooklyn Nets, and it gave them the picks that got them Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, are putting the
They're
Celtics
reaping the benefits right now.
So that's how GMing works. And that's why whenever I see this idea of just staying the same, I'm like, honestly, what's going to happen is you're going to pay for this 4 years from now. You're going to pay for this 5 years from now. And that's why I'm like, well, just do it now. Like, just go now and just do it now. But what's it going to look like in 3 years if the ship stays in the same direction and we're at 87% now and it stays the same? Because I don't see any path to getting better. I don't see any path. I don't see free agents out there that they can sign that can come in here and turn this team around. Nobody's trading you a big boy forward in their prime. You have to draft these guys, and I don't trust David Poyle's drafting because the drafting has been bad, and they're not willing to do the things it takes to get more shots at the apple because you have to trade away players and you have to lose in order for that to happen. So I don't see the exit strategy here, which probably means more of the same. Well, if it's 87 now, what's it going to be 3 years from now?
Unless they think that these prospects that they have or these young guys that they have can eventually become those big boy forwards or the elite players that they need them to be, paired with the core that currently exists in Johansson, Duchesne, and Forsberg. If they think that, and Yossi, if those players can continue to play at the level that they're playing at now, paired with prospects that may or may not eventually blossom into elite forwards or top-level defensemen, then I think that's what they see this future being.
So why would you expect that to happen when they haven't drafted and developed a high-end forward in 22 years?
I'm not saying expect it to happen. I'm just saying I think that's how they view their future.
This goes back to my take that I had right after the sweep against Colorado. And I said this. Everybody has choices in life. We can sit here and we can talk about basket weaving if we wanted to on the air. Nobody would listen. And I said, I don't think they ultimately have a choice. I think they have to move on from Poyle and Hines, but especially Poyle. You know, if you moved on from the general manager and you kept the coach and you kind of let him be the sacrificial lamb down the road, you let him be the Del Harris of the Lakers, you let him be the Doug Collins of the Bulls, you let him be this guy that he's the guy before the good guy gets to come in and reap the benefits of, harvesting the eggs. I could live with that. The more I look at this fan survey, and I know this doesn't describe everything, I just don't know if they have a choice. It's 87%. Give David Poyle a 1, 2, or 3 star out of 5 stars.
I think
that's terrible.
I think Predators fans are ready for a refresh, are ready for a new set of eyes, are ready to be able to say, okay, 2017, that was so fun, but that's behind us, and we're ready to find a new 2017.
I mean, Danny Ainge was the general manager of the Celtics who put together the Boston Three Party, the Big Three, and won a title and got to another loss to Kobe and the Lakers and then tore it apart, got to Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Final where they lost to LeBron. We're in the playoffs every year except for one, and he got fired, and now the players that they drafted under his watch are taking them to the NBA Finals. And that's Danny Ainge. He was a Celtic legend, and they fired him. I mean, in sports, I listened to the Midday Show today talking about this, and they were talking about, how Dallas made the playoffs. And basically, this was my interpretation of what they said. I found it to be very engaging. But it was how can you all be so mad at this stuff when the team made the playoffs and anybody who makes the playoffs can do anything in the playoffs? And I'm like, that's just not how this league feels. Getting bounced in the playoffs when you barely made it and you really didn't belong, that is not grounds for celebration. Think about the team behind you, Vegas. Peter DeBoer won a lot of games, got to the Final Four last year.
Just got fired.
Dallas, they finished ahead of you. They got knocked out in, 7 games?
6 or 7.
Ian, I think it was 7, right?
In the first round?
Yeah.
Against Calgary. Was it 7 games? It might have been.
I think it was 7. I think it was overtime in 7.
Maybe it was.
Guess what happened to their coach?
Fired.
Quote, unquote, retired. But all the assistant coaches are out, too. He got fired. So, that's what happens around here.
It was forced retirement.
Yes. So, I don't know. Your phone, 615-737-1025. We'll go to those. And the midday show is worried if the team rebuilds, how the fans will feel about it. The fans in this survey, you will be surprised, do not agree with the decision that the Predators have made about rebuilding. We'll get to that coming up next. First, Caroline wants to tell you about the Caesars Sportsbook app.
Yes, I do. And it's time for the Caesars Sportsbook Report. Now, if you haven't started with Caesars yet, you're just looking for your sign to sign up with Caesars Sportsbook app, then this is what it is. Your first bet with Caesars Sportsbook is risk-free up to $1,100. So download the app and use the promo code RADIOCZR and then place your first bet. And if you win, then good for you. You just made a little bit more money. It's that easy. But if not, no worries. You'll get your stake back as a free bet. Now, if you need something to put that first bet on, look at the White Sox Blue Jays game tonight. Now, with those two teams, I probably traditionally would say take the over. Total runs currently listed at 7.5 on the Caesars Sportsbook app. But I'm looking at Lucas Giolito pitching for the White Sox, got a 2.66 ERA. Kevin Gausman pitching for the Blue Jays, who's been lighting it up, got a 2.25 ERA on the season. So I'm actually going to take the under on this game, under 7.5 at -117 odds. But hey, that's my take. Do it how you want to do it. Just do it with the Caesars Sportsbook app. Must be 21 and physically present in Tennessee. New users only. Bet amount of qualifying wager return only if wager is settled as a loss. Paid as a single bet credit. Must be used in 14 days. Caesars.com/promos for full terms. Gambling problem? Call or text the Tennessee Red Line at 1-800-889-9789. Caesars Sportsbook. Download it, people.
Hey, this is Phil Forsberg. And this is Smashville.
Forsberg a shot, broken up in front, give it back to Forsberg, and here come the Habs.
You're listening to the flagship of the Nashville Predators radio network, ESPN 1025 The Game.
The hottest financing offer is back at Genesis Diamonds. 5 years, 0-interest financing with nothing down on practically everything in the showroom. That $3,000 Eternity Band is just $50 a month. Buy now, put nothing down, and spread your payments over 5 years with 0 interest. Available till June 18th only. Get that $6,000 designer ring and pay just $100 a month. We'll even finance the sales tax. Fine jewelry has never been more affordable at Genesis Diamonds. Green Hills and Cool Springs on approved credit.
Summer heat is on the way. Is your air conditioner ready? Costs are rising everywhere. Groceries, gas, utilities, you name it. Is your AC old, inefficient, and costing more than it should? Interest rates are rising, but not at Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. Qualified buyers have up to 72 months no interest for a new York air conditioner and 6 months no interest for repairs. At Spring Hill Heating and Cooling, all new systems come with a 10-year parts and labor warranty. Spring Hill Heating and Cooling, a York certified comfort expert company. Schedule now at springhillac.com.
Hey y'all, it's Caroline Fenton, and I want to tell you about my friends over at 312 Pizza Company. 312 Pizza is my favorite place in town. It's family owned and operated, bringing you a slice of Chicago to Nashville. 312 Pizza Company specializes in deep dish pizza, thin crust pizza, and all things Chicago style, always made from scratch using secret family recipes passed down generation to generation. 312 Pizza is open every day except for Tuesday and is located in Germantown with dine-in, takeout, and curbside available. Call 615-730-7888 or head to 312pizzaco.com to order. 312 Pizza Company, Nashville's authentic Chicago pizzeria.
Nashville is growing, and so are we. The Nashville Sheriff is hiring correctional officer trainees. Starting pay is $38,300. After 8 weeks paid training, earn $41,767. Come join our team and ask about our new paid job shadowing program. Join the best in correction. Apply now at sheriff.nashville.gov/apply or call 615-862-8170. That's 615-862-8170. The Nashville Sheriff, we're more than corrections.
Robbie and Rex Road here on ESPN.
Welcome into the DDC.
Stillman Company is delivered.
There's a new way to hear 102.5 The Game. Nashville's best sports talk on 106.3 FM. From downtown Nashville to Spring Hill on I-65 and to Murfreesboro on I-24. You now have two choices to hear our great sports programming.
Get the extra point, no problem.
And the Nashville Predators.
He scores!
Check out 106.3 now and save it as a preset.
Hey, Nashville, this is Eli Gold, voice of the Alabama Crimson Tide, and you're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
You know, I don't know what that means, support a full-scale rebuild. What does that mean? So you're telling us, because this is what I've been very adamant about on this show since the jump of this question and us discussing this. And I've said this over and over and over again. Okay, if that's what you want, so you're saying you're going to be in the trenches. You're going to go to the games. You're going to watch on television on Bally Sports. You're going to listen on these airwaves. You're all in still. You're going to support the team, or is it, hey, I want you to go rebuild and get some star players and then reach out to me whenever you're good again? Because there is a huge difference. And if everybody's going to be like, heck yeah, full-scale rebuild, let's try to get that generational player, and then let me know when you do it. If that's if that's the attitude, like, no one's interested in that. You understand? Like, no one is interested. The Predators aren't interested in that. They got a business to run, not for everybody to bounce and say. And by the way, with this model, no guarantees whatsoever.
There you go. That was Darren McFarland earlier today on DDC talking about the question, the Adam Vingan fan survey on The Athletic. Would you support a full-scale rebuild if it meant picking number one in the draft at least once? 62% say yes. Sounds like Darren's not happy with the 62%.
I don't think so. And I understand Darren's point of like, okay, yeah, number one pick, what does that mean? That doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get, your Nathan McKinnon or your Steven Stamkos or whoever that might be. It doesn't mean that. But also, I can't get on board with Darren saying nobody wants that. Yes, they do.
62% wants that.
Yes, they do want that. They want a change.
Also, who has to sign up now to go to the games if the team stinks? Why do you have to do that? It's like, are you going to go to the games if they stink for a little bit? I'll go to the games on the other side of it.
Well, he's, the word I think they were trying to wrestle with was support. Support, like, yeah, you're cool with the idea, but are you actually going to support the team?
I mean, I'm going to tell you what the answer is.
While they do that, like, are you going to show up, or are you just going to say from afar, yeah, I'm cool with blowing it up, but you're never actually going to, like, go to the games or watch or do anything like that?
Right. I hear you. And I'm going to tell you this right now. The answer is no. Now, what these people are going to say back is, yes, I will support my team. But the answer is no. I mean, look, I cannot tell you the Braves.
But I think that also that's a very wide spectrum. Are they going to get? Are they going to get season tickets? They'll probably go to some games. Maybe they don't get season tickets. Maybe they don't get seats right up next to the glass. But also, like, I think they'll probably go to a few games. If you care enough to take a survey in The Athletic, you probably care enough to go to a few games.
Yeah, but I would say most fans are not going to go click on the Bally Sports to watch them play the Islanders on a Thursday night in November if the team stinks.
No, probably not.
But that's sports. That's what happens. I watched the Braves when the tickets were easy to get and no one was there at that crap Turner Field Stadium, and they were rebuilding, and then all of a sudden they got good and they got the new stadium, and they didn't exactly go hand in hand, but they came pretty close, and tickets for the World Series were like $4,000. I saw it all. And that's sports. Like, that's sports. That's every team except for the Dallas Cowboys, and that's because half the people that go to Cowboy games are rooting for the other team that want to go to a Cowboy game so desperately. Other than that, every other team, if you don't win, they're out. That's how it works. And so, I mean, I'm just telling you, he wants all those people to say, yes, we promise, we'll still support, we'll still be there, we'll still watch, we'll still, if the team's not good. I'm just telling you, sports, that's not what happens. Let's get to your phones. 615-737-1025. Phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com.
Craig texts in and says, as a season ticket holder, I will gladly pay for my season tickets and continue to buy merchandise if they choose to rebuild, as long as David Poile isn't the decision maker.
I go back to the Celtics. The Celtics won a title in 2008, I believe. Maybe 2007. I can't remember. I think it was 2008. They won the title in 2008. Yeah, because the Spurs won in 2007. They won the title in 2008. They got to the title in 2010. They went to Game 7 with LeBron in 2012. And in 2013, they decided, we got to tear it down. And this is the Celtics. When you're talking about pride and not losing, and this is the Celtics. Mm-hmm. And when they are in a competitive market, because their marketing, they're dealing with people that are deciding to buy tickets to them or to the Bruins or to Tom Brady. They're in a much more competitive market. They decided after they made the playoffs, they finished 41-40. They made the playoffs. They lost to the Knicks in the first round 4-2. They decided that was enough for Doc Rivers. That was enough for Kevin Garnett. That was enough for Paul Pierce. I mean, the Predators, again, 41-40 in NBA lingo, making the first round of the playoffs, 16th of 30th in the NBA. That's pretty darn close to what the Predators are right now. The 500-esque team made the playoffs without the core of the team having won a championship and the coach having won a championship. They're kind of similar. Doc Rivers goes, Brad Stevens in, Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce go to Brooklyn. They go 25-57 that first year. The next year, they're 40-42, and they make it to the playoffs. So 2 years where they weren't very good, and then they're 48-34. But because they decided to be proactive in getting rid of Garnett and getting rid of Pierce, they turned around and they got all those picks from Brooklyn, and those picks ended up being Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown and
Marcus Smart.
Smart they got the year they were bad, and they were out of the playoffs for 1 year, and the Celtics are in the finals today.
But that comes from good picking and good GMing.
Here was the trade. July 12th of 2013. The Celtics traded Kevin Garnett, Jason Terry, Paul Pierce, and DJ White. So 2 throw-ins, although Terry was pretty good. 2 throw-ins in Garnett, and a 2017 first-round pick, which actually ended up being Kyle Kuzma, who's actually okay.
Yeah.
And a second-round pick to the Nets for throw-in guys, including the Kardashian Chris Humphries. 5 guys who don't matter. A 2014 first-round pick, James Young, not very good. A 2016 first-round pick, Jaylen Brown, pretty good.
Pretty good.
A 2017 first-round pick, which they then later traded back and got Jason Tatum, pretty good. And a first-round pick in 2018 that they traded to the Cavaliers for Kyrie Irving, who's pretty good. Like, that was the deal they made.
And was good for the Celtics.
I mean, I'm telling you, if somebody...
It's now more of a mess than I would like, but...
Now, in that period, again, they drafted James Young. That didn't work out. They drafted Romeo Langford. That didn't work out. They drafted Neesmith from Vanderbilt. It didn't work out. But that's okay, because when you get more cracks at it, that's how you get Jaylen Brown. That's how you get Jason Tatum. That's how you get these things.
But that's how I think people view, Adam Vingan's question of, are you willing to go through a rebuild if you're guaranteed the first overall pick?
Yes.
That's an easy question to answer. Yes, but I also see the other side of, well, not all first-round picks are created equally. If you have a first overall pick and it's how many of them have busted in the history of sports? A lot of them.
I
So
feel
think
a lot better
people,
of it if it's not David Poyle doing the picking.
People view that as, okay, well, you just tore everything down and sucked for a couple years. You got your first overall pick, and that's not going to get you anywhere. So you stay in this cycle of mediocrity. I understand that fear. I see that.
I go back to the Celtics. 2017. They had the right to swap picks with Brooklyn because of that trade for Garnett and Pierce. And by the way, with Garnett and Pierce on their team, Brooklyn won 1 series.
Woohoo!
1 playoff series. Boston has won 10 series since and could win the finals next week. I mean, but again, they had the right to switch picks with them in 2017. They got the number 1 pick because the Nets sucked. They got the number 1 pick. Markelle Fultz was the highest rated player. They knew they wanted Jason Tatum. They traded with Philadelphia at 3. Picked up another first-round pick, and they swapped spots. And they knew that Philadelphia was going to take Markelle Fultz. They knew the Lakers were going to take Lonzo Ball, and they took Jason Tatum. And Jason Tatum, honestly, might be the next great player in the NBA. Like,
good player.
It might be, and it could not be, but it might be Jordan, Kobe, LeBron, Jason Tatum as like the next era.
Wow.
Because I feel like we're at the end of the LeBron era,
Really
right?
nice accolades for Jason Tatum.
Well, think about it like this, right? It was the Michael era. It was the Magic and Larry era. Then it was the Michael era. Then it was the Kobe era. Then it was the LeBron era. And there's obviously overlap in some of this. LeBron overlaps with Kobe some, and other guys win. Duncan wins, and Durant won a little bit, and
But
Steph's
I think time shows you that more than anything. It could be Jason Tatum. It could be Luka. It could be John Morant.
It could be any of these guys. But this is what I said at the start of the playoffs on Mad Dog Radio, which was you got to win the playoffs.
Yeah.
Nobody cares about what you do in the regular season. You got to win the playoffs. And Boston has won in the playoffs more. If they win the championship, John Morant, he's not close to a championship right now. They got to get him some help. Like, they got to pull off the Jerry Krause. Jordan was great with Gene Banks and Dave Corzine and John Paxson.
But add Scottie Pippen.
They had to make the trade to get Pippen and Horace Grant in the same draft. You have to do it. That was me rambling for a while. I promise more of your phones next. 615-737-1025. I do have a basketball thought I probably want to share at some point as well. NBA Finals, FanDuel Sportsbook's my official sportsbook app. Throughout the NBA Finals, FanDuel is giving new customers $200 in free bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Bet the money line, point spread, player props, and so much more. Plus, you can combine your bets for an even bigger payout with a same-game parlay. I would say the Game 1 winner, Golden State. I know. I'm big on the Celtics, but I've been saying for weeks Golden State's going to win, so I'm rolling with Golden State. Sign up with the promo code JGM. If you haven't tried FanDuel, now is the perfect time to give it a shot because the only thing sweeter than watching the finals is cashing in on all the action. Join today with the promo code JGM and turn a $5 bet into $200 in free bets, win or lose. Make every game day feel like Game 7 with the FanDuel Sportsbook app, an official partner of the NBA and my official sportsbook app. 21 and older and present in Tennessee. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issues, non-withdrawable free bets that expire 14 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See full terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line 1-800-889-9789.
Join Chase McCabe for Chasing Checkers every Sunday morning at 8 for all the news in the world of motorsports.
Joey Logano gets the very first victory in the next-gen car
while hearing from the big names.
Two-time champion Kyle Busch.
Being able to bring NASCAR, the Cup Series, back to Nashville is cool.
It's Chasing Checkers, presented by Apple Collision Centers and the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway
on ESPN
102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
From the Fox 17 News Code Red Weather Center.
Hot and muggy heading into the evening hours tonight and looking at mild conditions with temperatures near 70. Another hot and steamy day for Wednesday. Highs in the low 90s with partly cloudy skies. For Fox 17, I'm Chief Meteorologist Katie Morgan.
This weather report brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical.
Call the Happy Face Truck today.
We're in the most active season of the year right now, but if you've got joint pain, you may be on the sidelines. Hips, knees, back pain, shoulder pain. It sucks the fun out of living, but I've got the solution. QC Kinetics, helping people here in our listening area get the fun back. It's regenerative medicine. It's the hottest thing going. It's basically taking growth factors with the healing properties from your own body, highly concentrated, then putting them into your aching joints. This is exciting. It's in the office. It's non-surgical. No drugs, no surgery, no downtime. So stop putting it off. Call QC Kinetics and learn more about regenerative medicine and get a free in-office consultation now. Call the local medical professionals at QC Kinetics. 615-249-4024. That's 615-249-4024 for QC Kinetics. Repair and restore damaged tissue in your joints and get the long-lasting relief from pain.
Zines First is the official sign company for 102.5 The Game. Go to sfnash.com.
Hey, Nashville, it's Chase McCabe, Program Director of ESPN 102.5 The Game, and there's a new way that you can hear Nashville's best sports talk. It's on 106.3 FM. From downtown Nashville to Spring Hill on I-65 and to Murfreesboro on I-24, you now have two choices to hear our great sports talk programming. And of course, the Nashville Predators. Check out 106.3 now and save it as a preset.
Robbie Stanley.
They get a lead in that game and just totally close the door.
Joe Rexrode.
If he plays next year, it's disastrous.
Robbie and Rexrode. Mornings from 6 to 10 on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 and 106.3 The Game and on the Game Nashville app. You're listening to Stillman and Company.
Sounds like this has been a game-changing day for all of us.
Presented by TriStar Moving
on ESPN
102.5 and 106.3 The Game and on the Game Nashville app.
Stillman and Company again, 5 o'clock tomorrow. We have a big station announcement here on the program. I will get to your phones as promised. I just want to just let this out, though, before I get right to it, which is this. I'm pumped for the NBA Finals. Basketball, not my cup of tea in general, the NBA. I mean, I like college basketball. The NBA, I think there's too much crying. I think there's too much complaining. But I think between it being open and, like, the games actually being kind of competitive and it not being one super team over here, one super team over there, I think the Grizzlies being good has at least somewhat of a residual effect on me. I think the fact that I'm doing national talk radio, I think is pushing me a little bit more towards the NBA. I think an iconic franchise, the Celtics, a dynasty in the Warriors with likable, recognizable players and coaches. I'm excited for the finals, and that obviously starts on Thursday. But I mean, Thursday night, like, what am I doing Thursday night? I'm watching the finals.
I'm not there. And I don't know if I'll ever be there with the NBA.
With the NBA?
I'll watch, and I'm excited about the storyline of, like, is this Warriors core's last run?
If there was a new Michael Jordan, do you think you'd get into it?
Probably. Yeah, but that's also really easy for me to say if there's a player like Michael Jordan. But then also on the other side, it's the Celtics. Like, if they do win this, is this the first of many? Is this going to be this young team that just blossoms into this another dynasty? Maybe. I think those storylines are very interesting. I'm not going to not watch it. I'm not against it. It's just there's nothing about this finals that I'm like, oh my gosh, set my DVR to record this game and cancel all my Thursday night plans.
See, that's how I feel about the NHL playoffs.
Like, just very
I watched St. Louis, Colorado, and I was hopeful that St. Louis would beat Colorado, so then everybody out there that was like, oh, we can't beat Colorado, I could be like, ah! And then they took the goalie out, and, it was really never that big of a series.
I think with the Stanley Cup playoffs, like,
shrug.
There hasn't really been any upsets. It's really all kind of gone according to plan. Like,
I mean,
the
last
favorite
night.
team. Well, yeah, with the Rangers.
Yeah, I mean, that's a huge upset.
Yeah, but I don't think that was enough juice in it for me to be like, oh my gosh, the Stanley Cup playoffs are crazy. I'm excited for the Stanley Cup playoffs, but I would say more so excited for the Stanley Cup playoffs than I am NBA.
Oh my God, Jerry is up next on David Poyle. Thank you for calling. Go ahead, Jerry.
I have a few quick things. Hello, Carolina and Jared. One of the main things is David Poyle actually admitted that he wasn't putting the team together that needs to be there. And it's shown over the years that we have a team that is good, but not good enough because they have enough.
No. This team last year was not good. Do not pretend, just because they made the playoffs, do not pretend that this team was good.
No, they have certain players that are good. But as a team, they're not putting it all together as being good.
I mean, I think every team in the
playoffs
league
is enough if you have players that are playoff players that turn it on in the playoffs. But they don't have that.
And they don't have it. They don't have good enough players. Jerry, I appreciate your call. I would say this. Everybody has good players. Now, how many teams have really good players? That's a difference. How many teams have a bunch of good players? That's also it. Tampa Bay has more good players than you do, and they have really good players. Everybody, though, has a good player. It is a socialist government league. Hard salary cap, draft picks based upon a lottery system. You've got, it's not as bad as the NFL where the schedule is affected by how you played, but everybody has a good player. Everybody. The bad teams have good players, unless the teams that just absolutely run themselves into the ground. The truth is, to me, there's no difference between the worst team that didn't make the playoffs and the best team that didn't make the playoffs and the Predators, the worst team that made the playoffs. The Predators never had a chance to win that series.
Making the playoffs is the difference, but it's how good do you feel about that team in the playoffs. I would argue with you. I do think this team was good.
No, this team sucked.
In the playoffs, yeah.
No.
Great.
For the last 2 months of the season, they freaking stink.
But as a whole, I don't think this team is bad.
But who cares what you do in October?
But don't say that you can't say this team is good.
This team was not good. This team was
April, no, the team was not good. And yeah,
March,
sure, that's all that matters.
March
probably wasn't great either.
Okay, I'm sorry. This is what's going to happen next year. If the same thing happens, they'll win in January. What do you think now, Jared? And it's I don't care what happens in January. It's like all these people in their local markets that are sitting there being like, well, the Phoenix Suns had a good season. Who cares? This is sports. Nobody cares about the regular season. I try to explain this all the time. And even then, we know the difference between a good team that makes the playoffs and gets beat in the first round, like the 2015 Predators that went 6 games with Chicago, blew 2 leads they should have had, and they really screwed themselves, and that Chicago team won the Cup. That was a decent, solid team. That Predators team was never going to win the Cup, but they were a solid, good team. This team was not. I remember watching a game at Tampa Bay at the end of the season with my dad, and I turned to him while we were watching. I was like, We stink. Like, not, this team's not good enough to compete with the good. No, this team's going to overtime and winning 1-0 against San Jose. Like, that's how this team was not good. And everybody has convinced themselves that making the playoffs equals good, and that's not true. I just went over these Celtics teams. Like, Celtics, 40-44. They made the playoffs. They got swept by the Cavaliers. Telling you the people in Boston don't think that's good. I thought Preds Insiders was on after us. ESPN Radio. Oh, it's Tuesday.
It is Tuesday.
Tuesday.
It's a very Monday Tuesday.
Tuesday. ESPN Radio coming up next. Game 1, Colorado, Edmonton at 6:30 tomorrow. We will see you then, Stillman and Company. It's ESPN 102.5.